So looking to, so looking to, so looking to. I'm excited to do this live actually because we're going to be talking about the divine couple. And of course, that's my favorite conversation, as you all know. Talking about the divine couple. So waiting for people to come on. We're also going to do some energy check. And I'm excited. And we're going to be talking about rituals because I'm seeing people getting a little too politically correct. And politically correct to the level where it's ridiculous. And it's not politically correct. So we're going to be talking about sage and altars because I think there's some misconceptions. And fear. And the Grim Master of Fear is really always working hard and harder still. And I need you guys to relax and enjoy the process. It's hard enough getting into your meditations, doing what you got to do, okay? But we're going to be talking, okay? We're going to be talking. So I'm waiting for 9 people. So if you can share the live, please share the live. This is an important live, believe it or not. And by the way, this is from one of my little vignettes from my book, The Recall. You're probably going to see that. That's my latest upload of the book Recall on the Divine Couple, based on a true story, actually. But anyway, let me know. Let's get 9 people and let's start, because I don't want to go back again and again. You know how people get on? They're like, what are you talking about? If we can get 9 people, that's awesome. Let's talk about the Divine Master Couple. Let's talk about altars, saging, protection, because it's a real concern, and especially now, okay? So if you could share the live, and then we can start, if you can share the live. In the interim, I'm just going to do a little tarot real quick to see what the energy is. The energy for a lot of people has been kind of weird. I know I feel fabulous, so that's good. I didn't feel very good for a while, but I doubled down on my meditations. I did like a 40-minute meditation. The bell rang. I was like, oh shit, it's done already. So that's okay, great, 9. All right, so if you have questions that are going to be beneficial to the collective, feel free to ask. Don't ask me, is Joe's going to call back. Okay, please don't do that. I'm not that person. I'm not your person. But if you want to ask me a question that's going to help you and the collective, I would love to answer. All right, let's talk about sage. Okay, sage is an herb that we use. The lack of common sense is driving me crazy. You realize that you're buying sage to cook with, aren't you? Right? I hope you do. Okay. Sage has been used all over the world. Incense is not going to help you clear energy. If it worked, we're not idiots. We're actually not stupid around the world. We would use incense if it worked, but it doesn't work. Hence why we use sage. You can use also copal. Copal is a very powerful cleaner of energy, copal. So if you don't want to use sage, and sage, by the way, some of the sage I buy is California white sage, and believe it or not, it's sold by a family that is actually, so there's this weird thing going on, and I just really want to respect culture of sage. We use sage in our cooking all over the world. We use sage for tea. We drink sage tea. Did you know that? Sage tea is one of the most incredible teas for your health. Number 1. Number 2, why are people afraid? Why are people saying don't use sage? Because it is a culture. Sweetie pies, you and I have been Native American. We've been Hindustani. We have been Japanese. We have been Celtics. We have been everything you can think of and back again. No one owns a culture. No one. And if that offends you, that's too bad, because that's actually true what I'm saying. Then I'm not your person. What is going to really help you in clearing an energy is sage. Palo Santo is not as powerful, though it's good, but copal is incredible. So it's COPAL, and it usually comes from South America. It's a resin. Literally, and it's usually, if you're getting good copal, it's wrapped in corn leaves, like corn husk, and you would need to get a charcoal and a burner with your feathers to waft the smoke around your house, your room, so forth. And I've been meaning to sage my house, and I have to. And I'll probably smudging, saging, whatever. Okay. But if sage is the least expensive thing for you to use, because copal isn't cheap, really. Okay. So I want you to do what you need to do. Okay. Because this weird cultural now I am a woman of many backgrounds. Okay. This is not coming from a person who is I'm a woman of color. Okay. So when I tell you shit like that, it's not coming from anything. I have so many bloodlines, you can't even, it's crazy. And so maybe that's why I'm so globalistic and not holding on to any cultural appropriation or non-appropriation or politically correct or this or that. I have past lives that are very, very strong as a Native American shaman woman, as a boy that was actually hunted down like a dog when we had settlers. I have memories of all kinds of shit that would, and I'm sure you do too. So when you're attracted to certain cultures, okay, like I had a friend who, a white girl, okay, she came from Buffalo, New York, and she used to sing the blues like you would not, and she was very much shamed, okay, that she was appropriating. But you have to understand, I used to often tell her, you're a reincarnation. It's like you sound like Billie Holiday. And we have to get less concerned with, how do I put this without sounding like I'm not sensitive? What you're attracted to is a past life reverberation. And that's it, and that's that. So if your thing is Hawaiian culture, most likely you were either a Samoan or some kind of Polynesian person. Does that make sense? And this is why the backbone of this kind of globalization of being able to be so inclusive with all people comes from believing and remembering your own incarnated selves, your many selves that you experience in many types of cultures. Like I have a massive affinity with Japanese culture, massive. And I remember my husband did too, the father of my son, and he was like 10 years old. He had such an incredible respect for the samurais. And I remember he told me when I got 10 years old, I realized that I was going to get so much taller, because at 10 he was like 6 foot, okay, just so you know. And he was so sad because he thought, I'll never get into those outfits, those samurai, because the Japanese men of that time were shorter, for the most part. And it made him sad. It was almost like I've outgrown the ability to be that man again that I was in a past life. And this is him also, who remembered, he kept saying when he was 10 years old, and you have to remember that was 1972 when he was saying that, so there was no internet, no this, no that, saying he came from the Pleiades. No one was talking about this stuff in 1972. I assure you, not the Pleiades, not the Orion belt, nothing of that. People weren't talking about I came from other planets. That was not a common thing. People were saying I'm being kidnapped by people from other planets. Now that was happening in 1972, but not the other way around. If you remember, there was a very famous book called Communion, and it was a book, there was an E.T. on the cover, and it came out in the 70s. And it was about a guy who was remembering being abducted. So that was big in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, okay? The abduction from extraterrestrials, that was big. So when you protect yourself, because this is a real thing, you're not cuckoo or crazy asking, should I be paranoid and protecting myself? There are spirits that are good, that have not figured out how to cross over. Remember Ghost? Remember that movie Ghost, where he did not come to the light, or did not, again, the light seems to be a big trigger for people, because now everyone's freaking out going, if I go to light, I'm going to loop back into reincarnation in 3D. And I've talked about it in my previous life, so if that's a concern, please look back at some of my lives. In fact, probably the last 3. You'll be able to find that discussion. I don't want to repeat every live the same thing. But do you remember the scene in The Ghost where he can't cross over because the way his life was ripped out of him was so traumatic? He was so pissed off he couldn't. Well, this actually does happen. And But at the same breath, was he crazy? Was he cruel? Was he an angry? No, he wasn't. He was a kind, loving man who wanted to seek justice and wanted to make sure that, Demi Moore was safe, right? Because he knew who had done it. He knew, well, he didn't know who he had done. But anyway, he found out, right? The point is that happens. But also, and this is the part that you guys need to understand, we are having a spiritual war, my friends. And if you are going through the hoops of going through the ascension, you are going to become dangerous to the dark side. Because you see, now you're going through an awakening. See, as long as you are, kicking rocks in 3D, they don't give a fuck. You can get drunk, you can get high. They don't care. They're like, oh, we don't have to worry about Joe. Joe's fucking himself up. But the minute Joe gets sober, or Jane gets sober, and starts meditating, and starts remembering, and starts like literally hacking out of the 3D brain, right? That we've all been given as a uniform, if you will. Now you become dangerous because now you're on the steps. You're actually climbing the steps of ascension. And at that point, you can actually, in your own healing journey, can affect in a very positive and very powerful way the collective and the awakening. So with that said, I can't tell you how many clients have come to me. At least 25% have come to me and said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm being attacked. And in different ways, right? In some ways, like feeling like they're being pushed. In some ways of feeling like really a negative, heavy spirit. Me and Andromeda Flame, and it was mostly Andromeda that did the work. There was a client of ours who was having massive shit happening. Massive shit in a particular room. And we had to help her clear it. She gave her directions. She also did some mantras. She remote cleared the room. It took 30 fucking days to clear the room of that energy. And now it's the best fucking room in the house. It's a real thing. Okay, so you're not crazy. That's number one. The first thing I want you to know is you're not crazy. But in terms of using sage to do clearing work or Copal's amazing. Copal is amazing. But if you can't find Copal and you want to get sage, you can fucking grow your own sage and go ahead and use it. But incense will not do a fucking thing except be incense in your room and give you a nice, beautiful smell. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Because if incense worked, don't you think most of us would be using it to open the four corners above and below and do some of our hard-hitting work when we do it? When I do hypnotherapy on my clients, one of the things I ask them to do on their end, remember, I'm doing a Zoom with a hypnotherapy clients, right? So I'm here and they're wherever they are in the world, right? And I will ask them to do the four corners. I will ask them to sage themselves. I will ask them to prepare. And if you want to feel better about it by growing your own, then grow your own. But I know that there are wonderful companies, family-owned businesses, like little herb, like they're making half or a quarter of their money growing it up in the mountains of California. It's called California white sage, quite literally. And you're giving them a living. So I don't know where people are going, oh yeah, don't use sage, just use incense. That is not cool because it's not going to do a fucking thing to protect you. Nothing. It will not clear your house. It won't do a fucking thing. So California white sage, Copal is my second most favorite. Actually, it's my first most favorite, but it's hard to find. Okay, I think you can find it on Etsy. You want to make sure it's not garbage. And I do have a purveyor I go to, and it's fucking not cheap. It's like I use it like gold. Okay, and Palo Santo, and sometimes I use Palo Santo and sage together, and I dip it in, and then I start wafting it around the house. I first sage myself, I sage the people I love, and then I do my business with a room or the entire house, and so on and so forth. Okay? When you do that, and you call on your archangels to protect you, I started last year. It was early in the year of last year, around February, March of last year. I felt that it was time for me to have some heavy hitters walk beside me every day. And I started calling on the four archangels, and I'll give you, actually, the five. They are, in that order, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron. Now, I'm stopping right there for a minute because there's now the level of fear that people are selling you guys is that I'm seeing is outrageous. So one of the things they're saying is that Metatron, I'm just going to cover all the fucking pink elephants in the room. So just in case you come across this shit and go, she said Metatron, but he's part of the devil. So no, he's not part of the devil. He's a very powerful angel. You can actually call on a Merkaba, which is his symbol. And the Merkaba would be like violet. That's how I see violet and indigo, which is a mixture of Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron. So the Merkaba is like two triangles, right? One over the other. If you, hopefully you can visualize what I'm saying. And you have this incredible, massive Merkaba that protects you. Behind you, right, you would have Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Raphael, going around you from the crown chakra or the Stargate, actually, the Stargate chakra, down to your Earth star and back around. Looping would be Archangel Uriel, Ezekiel, or Mallory and Christiel. It's whatever you want, okay? And there are other archangels that I'm sure you can remember off the top of your head that I can't. But you get the picture. But I would definitely call him Michael and Metatron minimum. And you do your thing, but you got to do it every day for the protection. That's probably why I haven't been going through attacks, you know what I mean? But have I gone through attacks? Yes. And the corrupted downloads that we've talked about in other lives, that I've done other lives on, right? We've talked about corrupted downloads. Andromeda Flame and I were talking about it a while back. So hopefully we're good, right? Any questions on what I just discussed? Any questions? She's great. How are Andromedians like? What do you mean, how are they like? Again, I personally, I'm not connected to them as much as you would think. I'm connected to the Pleiadians, but Andromeda Flame connects, obviously, hello the name, but she connects with them, and she remembers actually incarnations on this, what I would call a city, a ship. It's like a city, and it's a massive mothership because of some geno that happened, God knows how many millions of years ago. And the energy is beautiful. You have to understand that they're holding sacred space. Meanwhile, hopefully this will make you laugh because it made me laugh. Meanwhile, people are saying, there's aliens coming out of the oceans, and what I love about many of us out there in the world is that we actually don't give a fuck. Please come out of the ocean so I don't have to pay my bills, is what I'm seeing as comments. Please, somebody please land from the sky, come out of the ocean. I don't give a fuck so I can stop paying my bills. People don't give a shit anymore. They're more afraid of the current infrastructure than they are of massive change. I'm actually being real. And the reason is because, as you know, and not to get in too much in the politics right now, but you know what's happening with Russia and what's happening with just the fuckery of idiot leaders. The fact that Biden's still making any decisions except when he should go and take a dump in the toilet is amazing to me. But that's another show. And we know all of the ins and out of if that happened, if he had to step down, how horrible that would be. So my point to you is we're in a fucked up situation. So the idea of having aliens coming in out of anywhere at all, is kind of more exciting than what we're dealing with. And many of us are holding our breath for reasons that I think I don't have to articulate. I am pretty sure you understand what's going on. With that said, protection is going to be your best bet. You need to sink into your meditations with discipline and tenacity. Don't let your monkey mind fuck you up, because this is not the time to let your monkey mind dictate shit like that. That's why I went on a fast for like 4 days, and I'm going on another fast. It's cold as fuck, but I'm going to do it again for a discipline, if you will. So then I have more time meditating and do what I got to do. Do you know what I'm saying? But I also... Any questions on that before we move on to the divine couple, the power couple? Because I want to go over some things, because I'm sure that many of you who follow me, and I really appreciate you following me, I'm so happy. But I want to make sure that we cover some things. Hey, Yessie. Hey, Letty. It's good to see you. So happy to be here with my sisters. Yes, we are. I'm happy to see you all. You're such a beautiful group. So the divine couple has been bastardized. I appreciate your knowledge. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, my love. Well, we're sharing information. I wish we could all talk to each other and so forth. But okay, so any questions at all on anything so protection, you know what to do. I'll upload this video, no worries. In the beginning, it always skips and echoes and echoes. Just push it forward. I don't have the bandwidth to edit 2 hours. I really don't. So try to be patient with these videos. I don't know what TikTok is doing. Is my son's trying to figure out lives on YouTube for me, and because I might actually go to Rumble, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna set up an account so I can create on Rumble and do lives on Rumble as well. So follow me there, and and it'll be on my link tree as soon as I get the account set up. All right, just follow me on that. But I want to talk to you about the divine couple. Because as I'm doing these snippets on Recall, this is one of the images from the book, my book Recall. It's not in the book, by the way. It's in the snippets I'm doing. I'm doing little tiny little videos that are less than 1 minute long on politically correct excerpts, because I can't do the sexual stuff at all on TikTok, as you know, or the political stuff on TikTok at all, as you know. So I'm doing like benign little snippets from the book. And as I'm doing that, I'm realizing the power of the divine masculine and feminine when they are at odds, and how it can actually destroy everything or create everything. You know what I'm saying? Quite honestly. And when you look at all the divine couples through history, and even if you want to call it mythology, right? For Isis, Osiris, before there was Adam and Eve, there was Adam and Lilith. And I remember, just on the side note, I want to share that with you. I remember having a download while I was doing St. Pedro. And the download was of Adam being an albino, okay? Where he was very muscular, very tall, very well built. But he was definitely very, very white of skin, lashes, eyes, basically very pale like moonlight. And Lilith was dark. She had dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes, and that was the image I got. Years later, meaning around earlier this year, because when I first saw the images, it was in October of 2018. So let's look at this year. So sometime this year, I think it was like probably around March, April, May, I forgot, but thereabouts. And I came across something with Billy Carson. I believe it was Billy Carson, to give him credit. And he fucking said that was exactly how Adam was described in the Sumerian tablets, or some kind of, yeah. And I was like, I almost dropped my fucking tea. I was like, what the fuck? And that she was dark. That blew me away. So what's interesting about the divine couples, okay, that have been bastardized by men who, and I'm sorry guys, it's no real, for all I know, I was one of the men doing that shit, okay? Maybe I was a bishop at the Council of Nicaea, kicking rocks about whether women were equal to men. So please don't take any offense. Having said that, when you look at these stories, right, on how they twisted and like pretzels of toxicity to bastardize every female. I mean, from Lilith she becomes disgusting. She becomes this cruel, crazy ass snake that comes in the garden to weave her games onto Eve. And then Eve is now bastardized. Oh, how dare you how dare you disobey your husband? Your mate. And we have had to carry every time we incarnated as females, let's put it that way, we have had to carry the beast. We've been like beast of burdens to that. Those lies. They weren't even true. They were lies. And they were lies to oppress, suppress, and put shame in women. The Jezebel complex type of shit, if you guys know what I'm saying. And so why was that done? Why were they so hell-bent? And you can look at this 2,000 years ago, right? Because up until when Yeshua walked the planet, they didn't start writing about Yeshua being alive and well with Mary Magdalene, with the apostles and so on, until like I think it was about 400 to 500 years after his death. So when you read the Gnostic Gospel, in particular, I recommend by Elaine Pagels, which she writes about this. There was a whole PBS show on it in 1998 that came out based on her book, and where it clearly, the Gospel of Mary is being shared about her equality to Yeshua, and how basically, and I can tell you the Pope that basically ruined, in a way, like destroyed this divine couple, was a Pope Benedict. I'm not sure if it was the 15th, 16th century, thereabouts. And he combined the three Marys. The Mary that washed his feet with her hair, right? The Mary of Magdalena, right? And the Mary who was being stoned because she was a whore, or whatever, right? For he who has no sin, let him cast the first stone, remember? All right, so and combined those three Marys. Decided that it was the best idea to just eradicate and dehumanize and bring Mary of Magdalena, who was an equal, in many ways, an equal to Yeshua, who understood his incredible esoteric teachings. She could follow him. And what I mean by follow him, I don't mean follow him like walking. I mean like follow his thoughts. And they were equals in every way. And they were a divine couple, a very powerful couple. Imagine what happened. And as a matter of fact, it's funny too. As a matter of fact, talk to any woman who gets divorced or is a widow. Ask any woman who's divorced or is a widow. Ask her, is your friends, you had these combined friends and family who loved you and this and that. Are they still calling you? None of them do. So here was Mary of Magdalena, who was suddenly bereft without her divine counterpart. And then to add insult to injury, they would eradicate her from history. It took a book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, to bring it back and to articulate in the best way possible what the Knights Templars' mission had been all about and what was the Holy Grail and Holy Blood, which was Mary of Magdalena, who went to France. Now, a lot of people talk about it. And there are stories of her being a missionary, continuing the work throughout France. So we lost all of that. For almost 2,000 years, we lost so much and much more than that. And so when you look at the divine couple, why are they dangerous? Well, because when you have a twin ray, not twin flames, okay? We're not talking about twin flames so much. We're talking about divine couples. That means they're twin rays. They've gone through all the work, the egoic issues that separate the divine masculine from the divine feminine. And when they walk together, they become like powerful Moldavite crystals that could, in some aspects, can quite literally manifest within days, if not weeks. How do I know that? Because I've experienced that with my twin when we were flames. And I saw it in action, and I saw it for what it was. And then because we would have an argument, what we had co-created, manifesting, I'm not kidding, within days or weeks, just magic upon magic, would blow up in our face. It was like, you can create this, but if you go at odds with each other, we will, the frequency of that will explode it into nothing. And that's when I started realizing that there was something magical about these soul beings that were mated and had been eternal consorts for hundreds of thousands of years on different planets. And one by one, we started coming down, and all of us fell at different parts of our incarnations as sentient beings on other planets. And we fell for many reasons, different reasons. And I keep saying that again and again, so you realize, okay, That it's not, we weren't cookie cutter. We all fell boom at the same time. That's not what happened at all. Now, did I know that 10 years ago? Fuck no. I thought Atlantis was the epicenter of our fall collectively. And some of us had been in Atlantis. Some of us had been in Lemuria, and some of us fell in Lemuria. But most of us, the final fall was Atlantis. But I realized after working with clients with different backgrounds and so forth that that's not what happened. And so, why is the divine couple? Why is it important for you guys as twin flames? And sadly, and I hate saying this because I don't want to be a downer here, but sadly, I know for a fact that some twin flames aren't going to be in union in this incarnation. They're not. And you're going to have to find your strength, just like Mary Magdalena had to find her strength when her beloved, the ultimate beloved, was gone. And she was left with continuing the mission for years after he had passed, right? Whether you believe his life ended on the cross, in the crypt, he went to France with her, but at some point we know, okay, we can all agree on that. We know that at some point she's definitely alone for a long time. We can agree on that, depending on what your perception is, okay? There's an incredible book, you might want to look it up, called Jesus Lived in India. And they had carbon dated the Shroud of Turin, okay? And one of the things that this scholar, which made sense, he said, corpse don't bleed, nor do they sweat. Good point. And Nicodemus had donated the shroud. It was a very finely weaved shroud. But what was interesting about the shroud, and by the way, there were copies being made in France and so forth as holy relics to get people to donate money, shit like that. So there were fake ones out there, don't get me wrong. But this one that we're talking about, the actual Shroud of Turin, that's real. What they found, beside carbon dating it, was the fact that they found in it pollen, blades of grass, petals of flowers that you can only find in Palestine. You can't find them anywhere else in the world. And that was a big deal. And so what happened when they decided to bury Mary Magdalene's influence into the catacombs of all of the other relics they've buried, like all of these scrolls from Alexandria Library. I'm convinced that they have that in the Vatican. Convinced that there's a lot of scrolls there. Watch the movie Agora, Agora, with Rachel Weisz. And that was the last massive plundering of the Library of Alexandria, which was around 400 and some AD, just on the side note. And so who plundered it? Well, guess it was the newly formed Christian coalition. Okay, I'm just going to say that. But twin flames, you can still be flames and be in union, obviously, and work a lot of your stuff out until you become raised. And you can actually accomplish that in one incarnation. I've seen it. Well, I went through it with my twin. But I know that you can do that. Some of you will be in union. And you have to work this shit out. You have to give each other sacred space. You're going to have massive patience. You're going to have to be honest about what's being triggered here. And that goes for the divine masculine, divine feminine. Do you understand? You're going to have to work really hard to make this work. Okay? Those of you who can. Because to be honest, the ascension, part of the 144,000, has a lot to do with that success. Do you get me? Thank God all we need is 144,000. It's a good thing. Because at this point, I'm not convinced that we have as many people as I used to believe. The irony, though, is when the 144 divine couples come together in union, twin flames and twin rays, right? It will be incredible, powerful boost for billions to cross into the ascension. Believe it or not. So your power to manifest is completely connected to your union. That's why when we die, a new set of twin flames are brought together. Either they're brought back into union, or they are having their first meeting. Does that make sense? And it's a conveyor belt of that. Doesn't that make sense? It's not a static 144. It can't be. Does that make sense? It cannot be a static 144. It can't. Because or else we'd be fucked. Because eventually we'd all die and there'd be nothing left. So obviously it's a conveyor belt, right? So though I'm still in union with my twin, right? Just to give you an example, I'm in union where he is in, 6, 7D, and I'm in 3D, 4D. You know what I'm saying? And whether or not I'm able to see, right, the evolution of this planet going full into 5D or not is not my concern so much as to get it done. My concern is not to be there to see it. My concern is, and my whole focus is to do all I can to push and to help people come into union. That is really my focus. And so that it happens in my son's lifetime, if not my own. Does that make sense? That's very important to me personally, and to many of us actually. And so what they have done is bastardized or trivialized or always given us, if you look at all the fairy tales, all the stories, Romeo and Juliet, just go down the line, Othello, it goes on and on and on, just go all the way down the line of every story, fable, biblical, whatever. The divine couple is always, they lose. The hero loses, Spartacus, Robin Hood, they always lose. They always lose. And so what's interesting in those stories is that we're being actually brainwashed to believe that we can't have it all. Because, one of the great lines is, you can't have it all. Yeah, and I'm here to say, yes, you can. You can have it fucking all. The love of your life, an incredible life, doing what you want, having abundance at your fingertips. And I'm not talking about getting Birkin bags and Rolex watches and private planes. I'm talking about really having it all. Real shit. And if it happens to be that for you it is a private plane, chapeau to you, fantastic. But for most of you, you'd be happy with your twin, being in your mission, reading the books you want, helping people to get to where you're at, and being an incredible example to the rest of the world of what's possible on this planet when you don't get played by the 1% and the influences. And so when a twin flame couple comes together, and that I've seen it in action with myself in public and other people that I've seen. You got to understand, very few of you, including me, have Doc holidays. I have one, maybe two, to be honest with you, right? But you'll have to understand, many will be, the people who you think would be happy for you are not going to be. And so you can't involve other people in a twin flame journey. You can involve a healer. You can somebody who fucking doesn't. They want you to win, right? They'll do whatever it takes to coach you. Like I coach couples, for example, on the side note, because I remember when I was married, to my high-level soulmate, one of the things I'll have to give incredible credit to my friend who loved us both is when we had fights, she always wanted us to remain married. Eventually, there was an expiration date on our marriage, okay? Finally, she accepted it. But she loved us both. She didn't want the father of my son for herself. None of these games were being played. And with the drama to flame, I'm happy for her. Just like she's happy for me in my connection with my twin on the other side of the veils. There's no jealousy, competition. No, we want each of us to be happy because that is a benefit to the collective. Similarly, I'm seeing, and I have seen, where the minute there's an argument in a twin flame connection, your flying monkeys come in and they all get involved, getting to live vicariously through your pain, their own trauma and anger against the masculine or the feminine, depending on which gender we're talking about here. Meaning, if you're the woman that's being, supported by your flying monkeys, obviously they're angry at the masculine. If you've got flying monkeys and you're the man, you had to fight with your woman, your masculine friends are going to be the flying monkeys that support you and saying, yeah, all women are shit, that kind of thing. You got to be careful who you allow in your divine union. You better have, when things are good, the right support systems that you can trust with your life. because you cannot, and I will tell you, do not trust people who are not doing the kind of spiritual work you're doing for yourself. Most of them have entities, attachments, bullshit, trauma. They don't clear their chakras. They don't sage them. They don't do shit. And you're going to take advice from someone because you're in pain. And they're going to actually foster your pain and their pain on how they've never been able to find a man, for example, that didn't cheat on them. Or if you're a man, you've never been able to find a woman who really saw you. And most of these people, I mean, I'm sure they're good friends, but they're good friends for certain things. And you keep them for those roles. Because the divine couple, when they walk together publicly, it is magnificent to watch. And normal people like you and me will smile and go, wow, that's really cool. I don't care if they're 80 years old. I don't care if they're fucking gorgeous 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds, right? I smile, as should you. But not everyone does. Because they're like, damn, what does she have that I don't have? Like, I want that. You believe me, there's a lot of those. And I'm sure you do know that. And there are a lot of men who don't believe that women are to be respected. Okay, so we've got a lot of fucked up people out here that have, like, these issues. And so if you know you're in a twin flame journey, I need you to really take it seriously when I say protect your peace and protect this relationship and find the right people to talk and be very clear that you have a Doc Holiday. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's somebody who's a ride or die. They'll do what they love you, and they will. And if you're fucking up on a fight with your man, with your twin, and I'm going to talk to you women, a good friend will say you're fucking up. Well, what do you mean? Well, okay, so he fucking blew up and he's angry. Don't you blow up? And didn't you and I remember when we fought and you didn't talk to me for a month? Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, right. So you're fucking up. So what? Hang on. What did you fight about? I don't remember. How come? We were drinking. Oh, drinking. Oh, you were drinking. So he was drinking, you were drinking, you had a fight, you don't remember, and now you want to pack up and go. Yeah. One of the interesting and probably the best example of twin flames gone completely fucking wrong and people who suffered was Liz Taylor and Richard Burton. Twin flames. Mike Todd was a high-level soulmate. How do I know that? I don't know. I just know. It's just because I love them as a couple. But I remember when I would see them together, they were fucking madly in love, but they would get drunk, and he would call her a little piggy, and they would go into all kinds of fucking fights. And it was interesting. It wasn't the paparazzi that destroyed their relationship twice, by the way. It was their fucking alcoholism. They were drunk. They were saying shit they shouldn't have said. Why do I know this? Because Liz Taylor received a letter from Richard Burton every day until the day he died, even though he was married to someone else. They married twice. They tried it twice. When they did Little Foxes in Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan when they did that play. She looked so beautiful. She'd lost 60, 70 pounds. And they were back together. You know they were doing some hanky-panky, but they were both married to other people. Their suffering was their separation. And she had a hard time with his death. It really wounded her. And the fact that she could barely, the wife didn't want her to go to the funeral, right? All these sticky things. Can you imagine having a life with a man like that and you can't even fucking give his a bouquet of flowers and come to his grave and sob over it in peace because the wife doesn't want you there and the paparazzi's going to be there? My point is if you want to look at twin flames gone wrong as an archetype, I think that couple is a perfect example of how it went wrong because there were too fucking many flying monkeys getting involved. And the alcohol. People say stupid ass shit and then the following day they don't remember. They honestly don't remember. They remember there was a fight, but they don't remember the painful things that were said. You see? I'll give you another example of a famous couple that wasn't a twin flame. It was a karmic. I'll give you an example. George C. Scott and Ava Gardner. He was a drunk. She would drink. But he was a karmic. since that's the word that goes around, right? He used to beat the shit out of her, and Frank Sinatra had to get involved. My point is, that's not the same. And so if you know this is a twin flame, if you know in your bones, in your blood, in your breath, then you need to handle your business and work with healers who don't give a fuck. There's no jealousy. They know that their job is to make sure you're coming into, and they'll do whatever the hell it takes to give you good coaching to get it going. Some twins, I'm going to be straight up with you because I've worked with one client for 5 years. She's getting to the point where she's coming down the end of the line, which I told her 3 years ago. She's coming, and either he's going to get it together and get out of 3D, or the tower moments are going to be a bitch, and he'd have to like do a 180 and a 180 and a 180 again. Let's put it that way, for her to ever trust him again, because he really fucked up bad. I mean, really bad. Not to get into that business, but to give you an idea that some twins will not be able to come into union. Some twins had the agreement. The amnesia is real, massively real, and he's not getting it. He's like, I don't know, what is it about you? He can't let her go, but he's married to someone else and has children. There's no way. Like, she can't be the other woman. And he's not going to do what he needs to do, which is what? Divorce, alimony, and marry her and start a life. He is it's a cheaper to keep her situation. And that's why he's entrenched in 3D. And this decision is his jail. He's created jail from his monkey mind, from fear of losing money, fear of this, fear of that. It happens a lot. And he can't articulate who she is to him because he is 3D. He has no spiritual compass. He doesn't believe in reincarnation. He doesn't understand what this is. He doesn't even know what a soulmate is. Okay, there you go. Now, years ago, I told her to educate him, to get him out of 3D into 4D. At least let's get him to understand energy, chakras, this, that, the other, Joe Dispenza, working with neurologists and brain grafts and all kinds of shit. Let's get him going on that 3-4 years ago. And she never did. Because the problem with females in the 3D world with the 4D mind, with a 3D twin, is that they will say, well, it's not the right timing. It's not the right timing. And the thing is, it's never going to be the right timing. It's never going to be the right timing to start having an esoteric conversation with your twin. If your twin is entrenched in 3D, it's not fucking happening. They have to know what this whole thing is. Do you understand? It's like the movie The Matrix. Remember? Take this pill, you'll remember. Take that pill, you'll forget everything. Okay? So, it is what it is. It's a real issue. You have to bring your twin kicking and screaming out of 3D, the lobotomy. You have to do read the books I tell you to read, and then articulate it back to them. Know the book so well that if they are not listening to it on Audible, if you say chapter 9 and they can't articulate back what the hell chapter 9 was, you can say it was about this. Obviously, you're not reading the book. Why is that? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. Here, why don't you listen to it with me? Pillow talk should be this. It should be not, oh my God, you're my twin flame. Worst thing you could ever do. Worst thing you can ever do. Especially in today's, energy, because and I know that they've been going after us and saying that we are new age kooks and that we have, what's the word they want to use instead of obsession? And limerence, yeah. Like trying to, make us look like we're a bunch of 2-year-olds with crushes. Like there's something wrong with us. Meanwhile, you've got guys like Billy Carson and Graham Hancock and Dr. Joe Dispenza and all kinds of, that they're talking about the unseen. David Icke, all of these guys. Louise Hay, they were talking about that. And they know what's behind the veils. And many of us are able to see what is behind the veils. In fact, we cross over through our meditations. And your twin needs to be in your world. You can't go back to his world. His world means that you lobotomize everything you've learned. And you go back into the ignorance of 3D, back onto the hamster wheel of reincarnation in dead end streets, dead end fucking incarnation. So if you don't understand this, if you don't see the value of this, that you are not here to tell them that you are a twin flame, you're not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to wake him up to what fucking all these guys I just mentioned know. No, they know this. And your man needs to know this. They need to wake the fuck up and start reading books like that. Or if they don't like to read, listen to books like this. And they need to see you meditating every morning. They need, oh, what are you doing, baby? Yeah, here, why don't you? Me and my twin used to meditate all the time. Was he good No, he sucked at it. But he would brush my hair from behind my ear. He would like try to tease me a little bit. He would play with my cheeks when I would meditate. But we would we would do 20 minutes. But what he was good at was pranayama, which was meditation. That's it. So if your man can't sit in a meditation for 20 minutes, then treat him like he's 9. No offense, guys. And do 9 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't care. But get him to start understanding, because what's going to happen when he rises out of a meditation, a 5-minute meditation, he's going to say, God damn it, my mind's just kicking the shit on me. Boom, you got him. You got him, because now he's really realizing what a problem his monkey mind is. And then you can talk about the monkey mind and what it does to destroy success. And what is success? The abundance of love, health, and wealth. The abundance of love, of doing what you want, of being in the kind of life that you really are excited to be in. And let's be honest, most of us are not really living our truest path because we are duty bound to family members, to ailing parents, or special needs child, or whatever. It's not your fault. But we can still somehow accomplish the nectar that these incarnations can give us at the highest level that we can muster by these kinds of daily practices, which must include your twin. If your twin's still fucking dealing with, if your twin's still watching fucking, no offense, okay, guys, I know you, Sunday Night Football and Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl moments, right? Or this commercial and these dances that everyone wants to talk about for fucking 2 weeks. It's like the Oscars, the Grammys, it's like instead of watching Renegade with David Icke, or watching Matthias Di Stefano, or to watch Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about rewiring your brain, you're never going to be in union. Don't you see the logic of that? How the fuck are you going to be in union if the guy doesn't even know why he's in love with you and then denies it and runs? The purpose of these divine unions, which I can name, Isis, Osiris, Radha, Krishna, Buddha, Siddhartha, and he was married. You guys know that, right? To his divine counterpart. Who else? Mary Magdalena, Joseph, and Mary, Mother Mary. I prayed to Joseph as well. It's funny how he's forgotten for some reason. These were high priestesses, these women, which I've mentioned some books that you should look at. I'm going to make a list, honestly, on my Amazon. I think I better do that. I'll do it this week so that you guys can pop into and see my list of books, because maybe it'll help you. But does that, any questions so far? Let me see, because I don't look down while I'm talking, or else I get distracted. Any questions? Let me see here. Wow, Liz Taylor was beautiful, and so was he. Is union different for every journey? Of course it's different. It's different. Why is it different? You know what I'm saying? Why is it? Well, because like my union with my twin was a scoundrel. It's certainly not the same as yours. And when you look at Liz Taylor and Richard Burton, the way they lived, I mean, I studied them because I thought they were so fascinating. And yes, I thought she was out. And my dad actually met them, believe it or not, in London in 1970s. And it was really, they were the couple in the 70s. People loved them. There's nothing they could do wrong. Nothing they could do wrong. They were loved. And if you've ever seen them in Equus, they kept, it was really a divide and conquer too, because Hollywood was fucking with them. Because, for example, one of the things I remember clearly is he did the movie Equus, incredible movie, And he did not win the Oscar, which was an absolute fuck you by the Academy, which they do. They do that. And she had won maybe, I think she won at least one Oscar, if not two. And it felt like he had just been disrespected. And you remember, she was married to Eddie Fisher, and he was their golden boy. And maybe they were pissed. You never know. But he didn't. So that added some pressure. But it wasn't. I really don't believe it was that much that, as though I think there was some of that. It was mostly the alcohol. It was mostly them. They're the ones that destroyed the union. And that's what happens with twins. No one else can really destroy your union unless you allow it. No one else has that power except you. Okay? If you've got jealousy and, like your twins, cheating on you. Typically, when a twin is actually cheating on you, they're usually addicted to alcohol or drugs. They're usually addicted. They're constantly high, right? So they're like impulsive and doing all kinds of stupid shit. Whereas, and that's usually, unfortunately, a sad truth. My client, who I just spoke to you about, he's totally sober, so she says. And she sends me pictures so I can pick up on the energy. And I said to her, he's definitely miserable because he's gained 40 pounds. His face is puffy. I think he's drinking. I'm not believing. He has it's either massive cortisol, because he's got the cortisol face, which is the moon face, or most likely I think he's drinking. She said, well, he never drank with me. I go, yeah, but you have to understand something about twin flames. When we're with our twin flames, we look the best we've ever looked. We're the most beautiful, the most vibrant. We're magnetic and charismatic. That's across the board. I've never seen twin flames and twin rays not show up together like that. Never. That's why when somebody tells me, like I had a client, I'll tell you a story about this client. She kept insisting it was a twin flame. I said, no, it's not. And I'll tell you why. I told her that. Forget the fact that my reading said it wasn't. That's another show. But let me tell you why I knew it wasn't. Because she was having discharge, itchiness, if you get my drift. She was losing her hair. She was having massive migraines. When you're making love to your twin, that's not your hair is getting long. It's like somebody gave you the happiest pill on the planet, and you're like a light bulb that just glows and glows and glimmers and shimmers. I don't care if you're having fights, or you still look fabulous. Believe it or not. It doesn't take your health away. It doesn't destroy you. Those are karmic loops with maybe soulmates. It could even be high-level soulmates. It can actually. Or like you guys call it, a karmic. Okay? It's a karmic loop. But it's not a twin. Twins will never make you look like shit. You'll look better than you've ever looked. And if that's not your story, then I'm going to have to challenge you to make sure it's your twin. Because I've never seen anyone look like... The only time you look like shit is when you're in separation. And yeah, at that point, you're gaining weight, or you're drinking, or you're going back to some really fucked up habits. And you do look like shit. You look like something happened to you. You look like, when you're in separation with your twin, it looks like... Have you ever seen pictures of people that have suffered narcissism abuse? And then you see the picture. So you look like that in separation. People look like shit when they're in separation. It's almost like they're being drained. And the minute they're together again, boom, everything just... It's wild. And to me, that's one of the twin flame signs. My twin's face is puffy and does not look healthy right now. Yeah, I receive healing almost daily, energetically. Beautiful. Experienced this a few times. No way they were. Yes, exactly. Yes. Oh, make a list. Okay, cool. I will. I will. Just remind me and I'll do it. Union can be... union is transcendental. It's transcendental. So does that make sense? Any questions or comments so far? Any input? So when you look at the reasoning, let's go all the way back to my original point of this live. So why do you think separation is so on the agenda, with Vanity Fair doing an article talking that we're kooks, that we're a new age invention, Twin Flame Universe, still racking money like you wouldn't believe. They're still getting a lot of people. A lot of the Twin Flame coaches that you guys are listening to and following are Twin Flame Universe people, okay? That's not a flex, okay, at all. That's like, holy shit. Because the Twin Flame Universe, I forgot their names because I don't care to remember them, are definitely not Twin Flames. Definitely not. No way, no how. Okay? They're hustlers. They're grifters. They're gurus. They're not gurus. They're gurus. They're fakes. So, but what's happened now is that the word twin flame is it's like saying Louis Vuitton. It's like saying Hermes. It's like saying Gucci. Everyone wants one. Everyone claims their person is a twin. It could be a complete karmic loop, and they're calling it a twin. They're mistaking toxic obsession for the obsession of a twin. And the obsession of a twin is not the obsession of insanity, though in the beginning it can be, especially in separation. But it'll be like, why can't I stop thinking of my twin? Your twin is you. You are your twin. And you'll pick up on their thoughts, and you don't mean to. You can be in separation for 10 years. Your thoughts will go back to them again and again. I told you, and I think it's bear repeating, that in 2007, I had a mala and a sari I had worn when I met my twin when I was 18. He had taken me to the temple, and I was given a beautiful sari, which I wore, and I kept for like 30, I'm not joking, 30 years. So in 2007, when I went into my practice, my daily meditations, I was onto my throat chakra. And of course, I was, controlling the colors, the blue, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly I saw my twin walking in like a windy, sandy storm. And he was wearing all white, like a tunic that you would see a Moroccan man wear. And take note, he's Irish. He's like 6'3". And then he was wearing a headdress like a Bedouin. It was so weird. And I was like, my God, but did he die? I've said this story before. And I went to a tarot reader, and she said, no, he hasn't died. And the Ace of Cups was there, and she said, he's coming across the ocean. He's coming towards you. And a year later, we were talking every 6 hours a day. Okay? So I wasn't obsessed with him, though. We took incredible delight in hearing each other's voices. One of the other signs of the twin flame is that their voice is like nectar to you. It's like somebody just gave you a drought of every mineral and vitamin you can imagine. It's so when we were talking, we would be on the phone 6-7 hours. I'd be up until like 4 o'clock in the morning talking, and it was right as rain, ready to go power walking and this and that, and be on the phone with me again. He'd be on the phone brushing his teeth. I'd be on the phone power walking. I'd be taking a shower on the phone. You get what I'm saying? We were talking constantly. The nectar of our voices was it was magic. And what happens in the early times of these relationships is that all that beautiful stuff is brought to be enjoyed. And then suddenly, when you start living together, shit gets real. And there's a lot of triggering. And a lot. And this is where you have to stay strong. This is where you may have to go into a couples therapy, but you need to find a couple, and they are out there. They're rare, but they're out there. My son has one, where they're spiritual. They understand chakras. You don't have to explain to them all this shit. You're not smarter than the therapist. You need a therapist who is smarter than you. They've done ayahuasca. They've done some shit, right? They've done it, or they want to do it. And they're very spiritual, and they'll understand. And hopefully they're not going to give you any advice on twin flames. They're going to know. Some twin flames have gone through the kind of shit that none of us would accept unless it was a twin flame. And you'll notice that when you talk to people who are in the twin flame journey, all of them will say, that person pulled the kind of shit I wouldn't take I would have walked out fucking 1 hour after the meeting, right? Whatever. So that's a twin flame sign. Because what happens, and I'm laughing now because I can, because it wasn't fucking funny when it was happening, is you see the kind of unconditional love that only, like I have unconditional love for my son, right? Well, there's a couple conditions, but I'll love him no matter what he does, right? Obviously, because I'm not going to lie and say, oh yeah, kumbaya, I'm like a levitating mom. No. But what I'm saying to you is, It's that kind of unconditional love. It's a pure love. And what happens is that with your twin, there's this sexuality, there's this intimacy, there's this, oh my God, being in that person's arm feels like home. It feels, I mean, he would tell me, I just feel like so comfortable. I feel like peace with you. I feel like, well, me too. It was, we were basically bouncing off blissful nectar back and forth to each other, right? But when it gets ugly, which it will, because see, twin flames do that to each other. That's why they're called flames, not rays. Rays don't, they've done all this shit in multiple incarnations, sometimes just one incarnation. And the triggering is no longer part of their reality. They'll have arguments, don't get me wrong, but they will not lose their shit and pack their bags and start walking out the door and to become a runner. And this is when it gets delicate, because when you start going for your ego, and one of you is going to have to be the adult. That's not kissing ass. That's the adult. That's saying, I need you to calm down. I'm going to calm down. I think I'm going to take a bath. Maybe you want to take a walk. And let's just not go to bed angry. Let's try not to go to bed angry. Or it could be that you don't even want to be in the same bed, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, you probably sometimes, I know the masculine, quite often when they're really, really triggered, they actually need to be alone. They actually do need to be alone. And that's something that your inner little girl might be triggered by, being ignored. And for many males, not all, in fact, I did a live last night where, you know, 2 males, thank God, came up and said, well, I'm very emotionally available. Great, but you're fucking a unicorn. But they're out there. But some males that get triggered need to be alone. And you're going to have to find and self-soothe your little girl while they are alone to deal with that. But anyway, but the point would not be to pack your shit and go. And if you have flying monkeys and you're getting frothing at the mouth because he's a son of a, he's a piece of shit, and I mean your girlfriends is just all agreeing. Unless he is being physically violent, verbally like losing his shit, you have to first ask him, or her, you know, her, if you're the guy being assaulted, because women do that too. Why, wait, hang on. You love me in a minute and now you're going to call me names, or you're going to do this to me? Like, you're going to treat me like, what's up? Like, get your shit together. What's being triggered here that you think you can talk to me like that? Or put your hands on me? And you definitely don't want to be with anyone who's going to put their hands on you. That's for damn sure. But a person that's going to lose their shit and start yelling and screaming, there's something that's going on. And anger is something that we have very little tolerance for. And I'm not saying accept it. I'm saying, when all is calm, what happened? Just like what happened yesterday? Like why did you think it was okay to act like that, talk like that? I'm not here to shame you. I actually want to know what happened. What happened? Now, some males won't say shit. They actually won't call you they won't erupt in anger. They'll literally just close the door and want to be alone. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them process it. Let them come back to you on their own. Don't force your need to talk it out immediately. That will grow a fight. Definitely never fight when you're high or drunk. Never. That means if you know you've been drinking, be honest. Okay, if you had two glasses of wine, you know, you obviously if an argument's about to erupt, you shouldn't even go there. You should go, you know what? I think even though it's in your mind, it's only been 2 glasses of wine. No, that's enough to put you in the wrong situation consciously, right? And your person. If you both drink, alcohol is not a good potion for relationships. Let's put it that way. That's why I use Liz Taylor and Richard Burton as an example of what not to do at all. You know? Because anything can spark it. Jealousy, miscommunication, misunderstanding, just being snarky on the wrong, it's the wrong day for a snarky fucking comment. And so it's about learning how to fucking diffuse situations. And sometimes I would say in my humble opinion, that silence would probably be the best situation. And you go in that room, I'll go in that room, we'll talk tomorrow. But this concept of don't go to bed angry is ultimately what you want to strive for, but you don't want to force a conversation that this person can't have right now. But when things are calm, at that point then it needs to be discussed as to what is the solution, so the explosion, that kind of explosion, doesn't happen again. Does that make sense? And I fear, and what I see, is that there are things not to be tolerated ever in a relationship. You already know what that is. And there are things in fights that you need to work out. And you have to, because many of us we've been wounded and hurt by our own parents, families, or past lovers. And when we meet our twin and we have been given the gift to live with them or to be with them, we have to figure out what is that. Some twin masculines, which shocks the shit out of me, actually don't know how to take care of a relationship because they were raised by parents who did not know how to take care of them as children, much less their own marriage. In fact, the marriage didn't survive. You have to understand that many, many parents that raised us, you, them, were toxic as fuck and were in complete denial of their toxicity. And very few people will give you the 411 on step by step of how they were raised. But I'll tell you some stuff that'll help you. If your twin masculine or feminine isn't telling you their experiences of how they were raised, their what they loved about their family, what they didn't love, whatever, if they're like quiet about it, then they got a lot of trauma, a lot. Because typically normal people will have wonderful stories to talk about their childhood. And one of the things I can share with you that I didn't think was okay for my twin was that he was the eldest son, and there were, I believe, I'm going to say 6 other children, and his job was to diaper and take care of all the children. That's fucking totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. No 8-year-old should be responsible for babies. If you want a baby, you diaper your own babies. Those kinds of things. So for him, he didn't want children. So that was kind of good because I didn't want them either. I already had one. But the point is, but it did mark him as the elder because he was responsible for all this shit that he shouldn't have been responsible for. And so his relationship with his parents were completely different than the youngest. Clearly, they had 2 different parents, the youngest brother to the eldest brother. And so with that realization, there was trauma. There were other things going on. I told you guys that his brothers were altar boys and all of them were molested. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of trauma in that family, but it was like a don't ask, don't tell. So that kind of background, okay? In fact, if you've ever read the book, If the Buddha Was in Love, it's called. It's very old. It's from the 80s. But in it, she says that and she's a psychologist, I forgot her name. But anyway, one of the things she said that really struck me hard in my heart was she said that when kids have been abused, verbally abused, molested, whatever, a combination of all or some, that the adult, boy, girl, it doesn't matter, will have unhinged rage. There is anger, right? Which is, I'm pissed off, this and that, whatever. It's normal. Anger is normal, anger. Okay. But unhinged rage, yeah, that's a little 3-year-old that just comes out of the gate going, I was never protected. It's a little child going, you're not going to harm me. Never again will I be harmed. And it's a primal, unhinged, toxic rage. And that's different. And rage is not anger. It's totally different, okay? And that is something that you have to decide whether or not you want to walk with your twin if that's what they're doing. If a twin is addicted, I can tell you it's a no-brainer, especially if they're addicted like on hard shit. They're trying to soften the edges. They don't want to be present here at all. Why? Because they had some trauma as children. There's no fucking way they didn't have trauma. People do not become addicted to shit unless they had early childhood trauma. In my humble opinion, from what I've seen for decades, it's one or the other, right? And when you look at narcissism and people coming out of narcissistic families, what comes out of narcissistic families, if there's a father or mother or whatever, you're going to have narcissistic kids and empathic kids. It's not just, that's the crazy part, is that out of the siblings, either both siblings or three siblings will all be narcissistic, or one sibling will be narcissistic and maybe two empaths will come out of that family. But trauma is trauma. When you listen to Sam Vatkin and how he was tortured by his parents, though he was celebrated by the world as being a genius boy, he went to college at 12, that kind of shit. When you look at him and you listen to him talking about it, it's almost like he's talking about someone else. He's like disassociated. It's weird, actually. So trauma, and by the way, he's a self-proclaimed malignant narcissist on the side note. And so trauma is something that is going to visit some of us who have twin flames. This is why, thank you, my love, this is why it is so insane to me how people are telling you and people like you that you're not in a twin flame journey, because your twin would never act like that. Oh, you're so sweet. Does that make sense? That's bullshit. Do you understand? Your twin is not Yeshua. He didn't come from the immaculate conception of a womb, of a woman who might have incarnated for thousands of incarnations to prepare her womb to bring a Yeshua in, for one thing. That's not your twin, my love. They came out of wombs like you came out of the womb. Fucked up wombs, women who did the best they could wombs, miscarriages womb, shit that were never, like, if you were born out of a boomer, I can tell you that the best thing they did is a DNC, okay? They did not work on their chakras and get ready for you to come in. Let's be honest. And that goes with your twin. So when a wounded, a divine wounded or a broken masculine comes into play and is your twin, you know it, it's like, you know it like your next breath and your last breath on this plane, they're not coming in fully healed. And so this idea that well, maybe we should just move out. I mean, I remember my twin said, I'm just, you got to take care of your son. I just got to go. And I said, are you sure? You sure? And he went, no, I can't, because my son was like losing his mind over the grief of losing his father. And my twin thought it would be a 6-month separation. It turned out to be 3 years. That's how the universe plays. And I remember when my twin came back and said, I should have never left. And his relationship with my son became incredible, but he had to be ground to dust by the universe to then open sacred space for my son, to give sacred space to my son's grief, which helped my son last year as well. And because he had to now articulate the best he could his own trauma to himself. And so that gave him the compassion that he needed, because he gave compassion to his own little boy, through what I will say to you was a dark night of the soul that he had to go through in 2022. And he had to do it alone. He didn't have to. He chose to. That was his decision. I would have been more than happy to walk beside him on a dark night. That was his decision, though. Do you see? And so when you have conflict, and conflict regarding your adult children or whatever, and again, I mean, on a side note, I'm a big believer that until your children are a certain age, you shouldn't be involved. No offense, okay? I hope I don't offend you, but to be honest with you, I don't think women in particular should be involved with anyone until their kids are like 15, 16 years old. I'm not kidding. When you can't bring other people in. But in this particular timeline of my twin going through the necessary, which was Dark Night of the Soul. Unfortunately, he had to go through it alone. And to be honest with you, we all have had to go through it alone, and we survived. So even though I wanted to be there clearly, right, I couldn't be there. In fact, there was a part of me that was very transcendental about going, he has to go through this, but I wish he was here, but I know he has to go through this. But by the time we were together again, he was on his healing journey, his final leg of his journey, which we didn't know about until it was too late. So, but it's never too late because it was beautiful. It was necessary, and I'm grateful. So when you have well-meaning friends, let's say you do have well-meaning friends, make sure that the women or men that you have friends who give you advice love you both, are happy you're together, adore you, right? They love you both. So I have another friend who was in a twin flame journey, right? And I of course I wanted her to win. I wanted them to be together. It would have been incredible. But she developed, and I've talked about her before, she developed throat cancer. And that's when I fucking called him. And the call was not to call him names at all. It was to say the least you could do is call her, she's got cancer and you're a doctor. You're a PhD. And he did. He did. That was all I said. I didn't say anything else. And she got the call, so he started calling her again, and she was going through her chemo, and she'd gone through surgery. And finally, she asked me to do a reading for her, which I did. And I said, sweetie, it's not happening in this incarnation. He can't. You have to do this on your own. You have to ascend on your own. You can't wait for him anymore. It's been 12 fucking years. And it caused you to have cancer. It cost you weren't supposed to survive. You know that, right? She was like, yeah, I know. So some won't win for multiple reasons. One, because the twin is hell-bent on staying in 3D. Hell-bent. They just want the nectar of these illusions. This poison that looks like nectar. Some of you will make it, but you're gonna have to be patient. You're gonna have to walk some very intense things. And I was starting to, like I said, like back in 2003, I was reading books on Thich Nhat Hanh. I was reading Carlos Castaneda. I was reading Lynn Andrews. I was reading shit in the 90s, 80s, but you know that. But the point is, when I started really going self-help, I remember doing self-help tapes of Louise Hay in the 1980s. So what I'm trying to say to you is that you have to get ready with as much knowledge as possible so you can talk them off the ledge. I'm loving it that there's so many sacred masculines who are incredibly self-educated in the self-help community, with all of these books that are out there and these modalities of healing. There are a lot of them out there. And one of the things that I'm asking men to be very conscious about is make sure you get yourself a real friend whom you can talk about esoteric ideas. You don't want to rely on friends that are just dudes that just want to talk about baseball, bimbos, and bars. You really don't. You don't. You want, especially if you're going through this journey as a masculine, as a sacred masculine, you have to find other sacred masculines. You got to seek them out. There's an incredible website called thegoodmanproject.com. Thegoodmanproject.com, which came out in the early 2000s. Go and seek a man, make friends with 3 or 4 men that are of that same consciousness, form your own groups so that you can support yourselves, emotionally speaking, so that you can get good advice from sacred divine masculines who respect the divine feminine. You see? And I have to say that I just don't see a lot of men going out of their way. They're just staying in touch with old friends from college days with the same consciousness. You become who you hang with. And that's why we as women, we need to find our goddesses and high priestesses, and we form these groups, right? Like I have a group. I have 2 groups, right? One with Andromeda Flame, and one called Starseeds Awakening. It's a WhatsApp group. It's a small group. And in that group, we have, people that we invite, right? That other group is for our classes. So it's closed. You know what I mean? It's like a different, but the Starseeds Awakening is open. And I'm more than happy to include divine masculines so that more and more of them can find each other and then listen to how women talk to each other and how we express, how we share. And it's important to get those muscles going, because if you come into union with your twin, whether you're the masculine or the feminine, and you're probably the one that's got more knowledge and more wisdom, to be honest. It's not to kiss your ass. It's because it's usually one of you smarter than one of you is more spiritually connected, okay? I'm just going to say. And so what you have to see is say to yourself, okay, so I've got to talk her off the ledge with esoteric, wise teachings that is going to come up. So you'll have a particular situation where you can draw from all of these wonderful nectars that you've been reading while you're in separation, which is what the separation is about. It's about you getting in preparation for the next the next union. And it's not about just going to bed and fucking. It's about going to bed and having important pillow talks. Do you understand? That's what it's about. It's about changing the conversation. With the same ease as you would talk about bullshit, talk about esoteric things. Sexuality, intimacy, spirituality, reincarnation, what you've read about it, the neural pathways that are formed when you meditate. And then you bring up Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural and tell him about the woman with the cancer. Does that make sense? And that should be your breakfast talk while you're making eggs for your beloved. And what's not happening is what I just said. Because you're so excited. Oh my God, he's back, she's back. And you're having love and you're like rabbits and it's fun. And the nectar and then eating and laughing and watching a stupid ass movie. Instead of you could still eating and laughing, but having wonderful, wow, light bulb moment talks, one after the other, seeding your twin because you know he's going to run again, or she. You know it. Why do I know that? Because you're not quite there. They're not your match yet, because they still don't know shit. They will run, but now you've planted seeds that you'll be able to harvest at another time. Books you would have gotten while you were together. Audible book things you would have sent to them. Right? And that is going to do its work so that when there's another connection, right? When your twin comes back again, guess what? It's even more powerful and better. And every twin I've ever met has said, yeah, when we get together, it gets better and better. Like they get to see what I am to them, right? Like, what is it about you? I can't stop thinking about you, and that kind of thing. And it has a lot to do with the fact that, it gets better and better. But if your twin's still coming at you in a 3D mindset, you're fucked. Period. Fucked. Do you understand? You've got to understand, when I was at the bedside of my twin, giving him my visions about how we were going to meet again on the other side, what dimension, and I described it in detail, he finally was matching my frequency because he was smiling, not saying, oh, you're full of shit. You know what I mean? He believed in reincarnation and all that shit. He believed in David Icke, but there were certain things he could not accept. But like months before, we were walking together, if you will, in same mindset. He would lean in, he wanted to hear me talk about the details and what he needed to do. And I was telling him about what he needed to do to prepare before he dropped his body, right? And so though he's on the other side, we're still a master couple. We're still a divine union, twin rays, because the energy he's giving me from the other side is potent, and I'm still being able to activate manifestation. Do I fall apart sometimes? You fucking ain't right, I do. You're damn right. I'm not, invincible. But do I lean, and do I have like days, like maybe a day or two? It'll be a day or two, but it won't be a week, I'll tell you that. It won't even be 4 days. I won't allow it. Why? Because I have to keep my frequency high. Not just for myself, for my son, for my clients, for the work I do, like for these lives. I have to keep it together. And for myself, because to stay and to come into a place of absolute despair that goes on. Look, the dark night of the soul is one thing, okay? But after that, you got to keep your shit together and do the best, intense, urgent, joyous connection with the all to do your mission until the day comes when it's time for you to go home. That's really important. And so your urgency to wake your twin up is going to be important. I have a few masculine friends, and I'm amazed at how awakened they are. It gives me hope. Absolutely. Does that make sense? So, whoever said I don't believe in twins, I really don't give a shit if you believe in twins or not. I don't care. I don't care at all. There's a lot of scientific shit that people didn't believe it a long time ago, and they believe it now. There's stuff that people believed in then that no one believes now because it was all crock of shit. I really don't care. I'm not here to sell you a car or a twin flame journey. I'm here to talk to people who are walking this walk and talking this talk and dealing with all of the complexities of these divine unions that have been going on for before there was a planet Earth. So there you go. And smarter people than you have written about it, which includes Plato. So unless you want to debate Plato, you're good to go. Okay? But anyway, any other questions or comments that are going to be more in line with what we have to talk about? Yeah, it's I love this. You don't know shit about the twin flame journey, or else you would know that it is the last thing. It is so not dependence. There's no dependence because most of us, it's a good question. So this person who knows absolutely nothing about twins has said it's dependence. What he doesn't understand, or her, is that most of us are walking this alone. We're so not dependent because most of us are doing this completely and utterly alone. If we were codependent in our last marriages or last relationship, what the twin flame teaches us is not to be codependent at all because most of us are doing it on our fucking own. So there you go, Mr. Brilliant. Mr. Brilliant. I love that. It's a very good question. I love it though, because you know, right, ladies and gents who are going through the twin flame, you've been more alone and more independent and more walking this walk of ascension on your own than with your twin. That's the whole point of twin flames. That's the funny part about this bullshit. Do you see? No, but this is good because I love that. That was good. Because it just proved to you, my lovely twins, that they are really hell-bent on teaching the 8 billion that we don't exist and we have no powers because we are kooky, clingy, stupid, obsessed idiots, when in fact we're actually walking the walk alone. Isn't that funny? I love that. If that doesn't give you fucking a boost in your confidence, I don't know what will. I think it's fantastic. Any questions or comments? I mean, I love this. This was great. I am so fucking happy to see that. When if any of you have read Recall, my book, okay, Recall, some of the scenes with Daniel, okay, and her when they argue, right, is the kind of shit that you're going to have to fucking deal with. And you cannot let your flying monkeys tell you that you need to leave the relationship right away. Yes, 100%. As much as it is painful, sometimes we do this alone until we meet again in this lifetime. Exactly. Because what's interesting is, and this is true for all of you, none of you want to go to bed with anyone else. None of you, unless you have a high-level soulmate. Which means you're married to your high-level soulmate, or you have a high-level soulmate, significant other, that is giving you companionship and beautiful lovemaking, blah, 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 right? Which is fine. But And that's going to have an expiration date as well, just on the side note, not to be a downer, okay? But if all you had was your twin, you and I both know you're walking that walk alone. And that's making you more powerful and more independent than your average 8 billion people who are married to people right now. Married in arranged marriages, in proxy marriages, in marriages based on wealth, on contracts, on what the fuck, it's time to get married, I want kids type of marriages. Just, I heard a comment about, well, men usually marry not the woman they really love, but they marry the woman that's there when they're ready to marry. Really? Okay, well, we can see why there's so many divorces. And people marry for lust, thinking it's love. We know what love is. Reading it now. Oh, fantastic, Letty. She's reading it now. So when you read Daniel as a character, it's definitely a mixture of because it's a creative nonfiction. So there's a mixture of characters, you know what I mean, in there. But like Malik, when you read all about Malik is, the way I wrote it in Recall, it's exactly verbatim how it went down. Verbatim. Including, and I don't want to break it, there's a couple scenes that are very, I'll just say inappropriate. You'll hear it, very erotic, very, very domination type of shit. You'll see it. Psychological domination, actually. And it's exactly how it was downloaded to me. I'm not kidding. So, but there were a lot of things I needed to flesh out, obviously, right? But in terms of anything happening in 1997, it was verbatim. I didn't miss a beat. Everything you see. I changed the names. I changed all kinds of shit because it would make me more interesting and so on and so forth. But ultimately, even the way I described the kitchen, it's exactly the kitchen I lived in. So, I mean, right what you know is what they say, right? So I'm glad you're reading. I'm really happy. And I think the way I wrote it as if it was a TV show, as if it was a movie. So I wanted it to go from one scene to another. And I've never promoted it, ever. And I republished it last year when I was in union with my twin. We were together. And it came out and then I didn't do shit with it. Some people bought it. I remember I mentioned it a couple times, but never again. And then I decided 2-3 days ago to do the little vignettes, which you'll see on my my profile. You'll see Recall vignettes, and you'll see this particular AI picture that I did of them, and that's what they look like in the ancient world. Actually, it's the best depiction I could come up with. And when you read the book, there are things that I don't want to kind of blow it for you guys. So if some of you buy the book, I wish I could do like an Audible. I would love that, but I just don't have the equipment, the microphone, the setup, and honestly, I would love if somebody did it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so it's interesting. But what I learned from writing, when I write stories about the masculine and the divine feminine, when you read it in Recall, you'll see the absolute difference between how the masculine and the feminine in the ancient world use sex, how they approach sex. The intimacy, love was still there, don't get me wrong, but how sex was approached was very, very different. You'll see what I mean in that. It was raw and honest, and sure, there was romance, but it wasn't how people write it. And of course, how we see romance and chivalry, and the concept of chivalry and romance as you know it was actually invented by the troubadours, believe it or not, who were the French poets who in the Middle Ages would travel all through France and Italy and so forth and write love poems about usually the lady of the house. And it was considered okay as a married woman to have men who had crushes on you. You could actually, once you were pregnant and so forth. In fact, some women, when they were pregnant, would take lovers. And the reason why they did that when they were pregnant is because it was established that whoever was in her belly was definitely her husband's child. And so as soon as she got pregnant, she could take a lover. And women did that. It was interesting in the ancient world and up until now. You know what I mean? now today you got chicks having kids, they don't even know who the father is. It's like, fucking Jesus Christ. If you're gonna cheat, first get pregnant with the man you're married with, then take a lover. It's like, fuck. It's weird. It's kind of like sloppy now. You know what I mean? I don't know who the father is. Oh, fantastic, Beth. That's exciting. Thank you. Yeah, I hope you like it. I mean, I hope you guys like it. It makes me happy that you're reading it. And it was a passion project. I wrote it in 2012, just so you know. And there's another book I wrote called Forbidden Fruit, which is all set in Paris in the 1980s, which I think I'll eventually finish, but that's not what I'm going for right now. The book that I want to finish, that I'm starting to work on now, is the Starseed book on star seeds and how we fell. And then the second book is the book about me and my twin and how we met. And he was a wild man. He was infamous. And I was raised by a wild man, so it's no wonder. And so I think it'd be an interesting romp, an interesting ride, but very raw, definitely raw. And so that'll be probably the next thing I do. I remember, and this is something that you may or may not have experienced. It doesn't mean that you're not a twin. But I remember after we would make love, many times I would get up and start walking, and I would just having massive flashbacks of past lives we had had. Massive. Just boom, boom, boom. It was insane. And I remember telling him that. And he was like, intrigued. What are the other books called? Just ordered it. Oh, the other books that I'm going to write, it's going to be about the star seed. It's going to be called Star Seeds, How We Fell into 3D. And that book is based on the Akashic readings I've been doing, because I can't tell you how much I've learned from these readings. And then, because suddenly something told me to start asking the question, like, for example, when I did it for you, I said, how did she fall? How did she fall into 3D? So the Akashic keepers will download light codes, and I'll start getting images and this and that of sometimes mundane past lives, this past life, that past life. And then in some cases, when I start asking, how did she fall or how did he fall? Then I just get downloads on, usually it's on other planets. And, I'm seeing things that are mind-blowing. There was one particular client where I did an Akashic, and one of the first scenes I saw was a very beautiful aquiline-featured male. The male was humanoid, but not human. And he had a velveteen black matte skin with black eyes. And he was bald. And he was in a ship, a small ship. And he had just fought off, I kid you not, Draconians. And he was bringing his ship back into the port of a massive mothership. Massive. And here was his beloved. And she also had a matte black. When I say aquiline, it could have been aquiline meaning European, or it could have been Somalian. Somalians have very aquiline features as well. But they had beautiful faces. Matte black, like velveteen. And then he went off his small ship, fighting ship, and went to meet with his beloved, his mate. I'm not going to say wife, because I didn't get that impression. It was like his mate, his consort. She was pregnant, so they were procreating like we do. And she was massively pregnant, and he was putting his hand over her belly, and he was getting such pleasure. They were peaceful people that had to learn how to fight to protect themselves. They were not a fighting race of people, unlike the Draconians. And suddenly, there was an explosion on the mothership. And typically, the explosion might have been on a port, this, that, you know what I'm saying? Like on a sector of the ship, and it would have been okay. But it was almost like telepathically, he knew. And it wasn't like an oh shit moment. It was like, it's over. And the ship just lit like a fuse and just boom. And that whole race of people, these particular people, were extinguished in seconds. So that was a powerful, and that he did not fall from that. He did not fall. And then they showed me some other, and I'm trying to remember another of how he fell, but it wasn't at that moment that he fell. It was that he felt a sense of loss, and like he had failed his woman and his people. and that he knew that that ship contained all of their people, all the entire species had been eradicated. And it was this feeling of a failure. He didn't fall until something else happened. I'm trying to remember what it was. I have to, I have to put together all my notes. But there was, that moment was like not egregious to falling, but it was this emotion of failing yourself, your people, your wife, your coming child, or whatever, you know what I mean? And so that was intense for that person. But I did an Akashic reading for a man who, he actually couldn't handle the fact that he was a Dutch woman in around the 18th century, I believe, 17th, 18th century. I'm trying to remember the exact century, but anyway, regardless. And he was actually giving birth, and he died in childbirth. And it's not that he had a problem with childbirth. He had a problem with being a woman. And that blew my mind. Because one of the things my son told me, which I thought was amazing, he said, Mom, I've been a woman many, many times, and I came back as a man so I could have more power, more control, because men had fucked me over, he said. So I decided to come back as a man. And so that does happen. You'll have you'll have 3 or 4 incarnations as a woman and go, yeah, that's not, I got to come back as a man. Like, fuck that. For me and my twin, and this also is one of my friends, which I won't expose, but she's a dear friend of mine, and she agreed with the same. Both of us have seen that when we incarnate to be with our twin, we are always the feminine and they are always the masculine, always. That is not the truth for all of you. But that has been our truth. You see, that's why twin flames and twin rays are they have their own thumbprint, which is a necessary truth. We can't be a conveyor belt of the same exact twin energy. We can't, or else we'd have no value to this whole incredible web, you know what I mean? This flower of life that we're building together. Let me see. What are the other books called? That'll be one book. And then the other book is I'll just tell you. So that one's called Star Seeds, How We Felt the 3D, and the second book on me and my twin is going to be called Gangster Guru, and because that's basically what he was, and so was my father. So there were a lot of interesting. Had they met each other, they would have loved each other. There's no doubt they would have been crazy about each other, but they never met, and my parents never met him. So, yeah, so that was interesting. But the book should be interesting for me to write. It'll be very cathartic, but it's going to be very raw and very brutal and very honest, because how else are you going to write a book like that? It has to help people. There is some wonderful twin flame couples that have graduated to Twin Ray, one being Twin Flame Revolution, and they are a twin ray, I'm going to call them twin ray couple that are gay. And the shit they went through, which a lot of addiction, massive, serious addictions, abuses, and they came out the other side just a beautiful couple. One's definitely the masculine, one's definitely the feminine. There's no doubt. So I feel like sometimes that is necessary for us to break through our own barriers. Maybe, in other incarnations we were homophobic. So the first thing we're going to come in and blow our own minds. Like I had a client 2 years ago that came to me to do a reading. And he said, I met this man. I don't understand. I fucking love women. Like I've always loved, but I can't get, I'm going crazy for this guy. And they were twin flames. So, it's, but for whatever reason, what I remember, that doesn't mean me and my twin didn't come in as same gender, by the way. I'm just saying that I'm not feeling it. I could be wrong, but I'm not feeling it for whatever reason. And it could be that we were both very comfortable with the concept of homosexuality, lesbianism, no issue at all, none. And bisexuality, none at all. None. Like, that's not even a fucking question mark over, can it be? Is it okay to be? No, we didn't give a fuck. It's like, it doesn't matter to us. But for me, there are just certain pathways that we choose. You know, I'm going to be this in this incarnation because I know that I can't handle more on my plate than this. It's hard enough fucking trying to figure this shit out with your twin, much less adding more shit on your plate, you know? So for me, I've always been a serial monogamist, and that's just how I'm wired. And my twin was a serial polyamorous. So, and that was, and then he was celibate for a long time, which was shocking. But I think it was like he was so fucking sick of the bullshit. And it's interesting too, because in a way, and again, I love sex, don't get me wrong, but there was something about purifying his energy because he had been active. I mean, he was a very good looking, powerful, tall, muscular, took care of his body like a god man. So he was getting lots of action. And at some point he had to just turn off the pipeline, which I just heard, and I mentioned it before, Lenny Kravitz's been celibate. I mean, the man's gorgeous and he's celibate. So there's a point where a divine masculine will go, yeah, this is I'm wasting my fucking time. Like, I can't do this. This is stupid. And smart men, divine masculines, will cut off the stuff. It's not always about getting as many girls in bed like some of these guys do, and you'll hear them influencing, and they're big influencers in the social media, and they're influencing young men in not having any fucking COCK control, which is not good. It's not good. Okay. Any questions or comments on anything right now? Any questions or comments? So let me see. Any questions or comments? All right. So ultimately what you want to do is, if you come into union, physical union, again, like, right, you know what to do, right? If you end up living together, like I had a young man who isn't a twin flame, it looks like to me like it's a twin flame relationship, and they separated. And they separated because they thought that what they needed to learn was best done separately. Why did they get that idea? Well, because social media says that. Oh, block them. You don't want to be codependent. And we cannot, the rules that are connected to relationships that are karmic or soulmates do not apply to twin flames. Twin flames and twin rays are union couples. They come into union. It means that you may never marry your twin. It means that you may live in separate apartments and move in together here and there. Like you go to their apartment sometimes and they come to your apartment sometimes. Union. It could be that you live under the same roof and you have separate bedrooms, or you don't. Union, it means that you're not always tied at the hips. They're flying into Peru to do some work for 2 months, and you're staying back to do X, Y, and Z. Relationships are codependent. Unions are not. It's different. It's driven by a different energy. It's almost like, you guys know, we can't always be like Siamese twins. Like, we can't, you know what I'm saying? Whereas soulmates have that propensity to be codependent. You know what I mean? Like, I can't let you go. I can't be alone. Whereas as you progress through your twin flame journey, you will become, well, you'll be fucking independent because you've been in separation here and there for a long time, like 3 months, 4 months, a year, 2 years, right? So you're still you're gonna insist on having your own life. That's union, right? You're not always going to go and have the same desires to do X, Y, and Z, right? Oh, you want to go see me? Yeah, I don't want to go see a movie. Oh, okay, I'll go see the movie on my own. I'll come back in an hour. I'll have dinner ready when you get home. Whereas relationship, oh no, they're afraid of losing something. So they're always clinging. So it's different. And if that's not your story yet, trust me, after a number of separations, which will eventually come to permanent union, you'll understand that, because you'll be in that new vibration, that new stride. You'll have your own stride. You'll walk together, you'll walk apart. You'll walk together, you'll walk apart, but you'll live under the same agreement that this is, now you're bonded. In other words, you're not going to separate, play any more games. You're not going to let your flying monkeys get involved. And make sure you don't have flying monkeys. I'm not kidding, because that's what I'm seeing happen with twins. And some of them don't even know they're in twin flame journeys. That's the sad part. That's what's killing me. There's a particular person I'm watching that is doing what I just, she's actually in social media and she's allowed all these women to get involved in a situation that should be exclusively her business. And she's made it public. And now all the flying monkeys who are pissed off at men, and believe me, there are a lot of fucking toxic women. You know it, I know it. Toxic men, toxic women. Okay, we agree. And there is a rabid hate, a gender war that is a real problem. And we as twins, we have to keep that at bay at all costs. Period. That's it. And there's nothing else that needs to concern you. You need to make sure you've got a very small crew. And when I mean small, I mean maybe 1 or 2 people that know your business, who love the shit out of you, and all they want is to see you happy in union with your twin. If that's not your story, if that's not the kinds of friends you have, then stop telling them about your twin flame journey tonight. That's it. That's it. It's over. Oh, well, how's Jim? Oh, he's fine. Keep it moving with something else. Do not talk about your twin with that person. Don't. You don't want the vibration. There's an old saying there's an old philosophy that if you're working on something that you want to co-create, right? Like say you want to buy a house, or you want to lose 100 pounds, or you want to do X, Y, and Z, right? What do they say? Don't tell anybody, because it dilutes the energy. Similarly, don't tell people about your need for your twin in a way that could harm your ability to manifest that. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If you're doing it incognito, right? Like, well, I do it incognito everywhere, but there are other people that do it incognito, right? No one knows their name. No one knows their twin. No one knows shit. There was a content creator who I blocked, okay? Who had never met her twin. Never, okay? He had done something for her. I'm not even going to tell you because you may actually know who I'm talking about. So I don't want to throw it. I'm not here to bully anyone. But she had never physically met him. She knew his voice because she'd done some business with him. And she had never shaken. In other words, she had never been in the same room with him. Okay, there you go. And she decided that it was a good idea to tell his name while she would do her lives. And she would always mention him in all her lives. And I'm like, I was thinking, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like this guy also has social media, right? Presence. And your flying monkeys are going to go and harass him because you always have unhinged people, right? And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. And he blocked the shit out of her. He blocked in every way you can imagine. Blocked her, because she sounded like she was kind of crazy to him, right? And that was the end of that. I don't know what happened since then, but that situation ended her marriage, as you can imagine. So flying monkeys aren't just people you know. Flying monkeys can be people who follow you and you start mentioning your twin or showing pictures or linking shit up, or I'm not kidding. Some people, first of all, they think it's a twin. And you will have 1 or 2 trollers decide to get involved in your business. So if you've noticed, none of you ever knew what my twin looked like until he was gone. You would have never seen one picture of me and my twin, ever, never, nor did you hear his name. And I was living with the man. Because this energy is that precious. Okay? And fragile. And though you might be, even me, right? A content creator, a healer, a healing facilitator, a hypnotherapist, all of that, right? Because I'm still promoting and doing my business and this and that. I got it. But still, even still, I would not do that in this content, because the whole point is that I would never put our relationship in jeopardy for anyone under any circumstances, right? However, when he died, no one has any power over that anymore. And so what is the benefit of his death? Well, how are you going to handle, because your twin, either you or your twin is going to die, one before the other. And so it felt important for me to start sharing how I was processing it, to give you the strength to one day look back on these things so that you could also stand in that light and go, oh, I can do this. It's been done. I can do that. I can connect with my twin. I can continue my connection with him, though he or her, though she's not in her body, I can still continue. And you can decide if you will allow a high level soulmate to finish off your incarnation or not. And to be frank, very few women in my group of twins ever want to be with anyone else. To be honest, it's almost like it's impossible for them to even do it, because it's not over yet for them. It really isn't. There's still time to get into union. Whereas for some women, the relationship is dead. It is done in this incarnation. That's it. You might bump into them again here and there, but you'll avoid them, because I tell you about a twin who was really, really dangerously toxic, and she could not be. See, and you're going to listen to content creators saying, who don't know jack shit. I'm being honest. Fuck it. I don't care if I sound arrogant. They don't know jack shit, and they'll say to a woman like that, "Yeah, that's not your twin, because your twin would never be toxic." Your twin is a human being having a human experience. And if they had the misfortune of being raised in a fucked up family, they're going to be toxic. And if it was really, really bad and they were robbing banks or doing whatever fuck they want, whatever the hell they were doing, that's just life. There's just all kinds of people that walk the planet. And it doesn't make them not your twin. It makes them a shadow, what I call a shadow twin, a toxic twin. Sometimes I'll have a client and they'll have a very difficult relationship with a high-level soulmate, and they'll say it's a twin, and I'll say, no, it's not a twin, and I'll do it again. No, it's not a twin. I'll look at the numbers. No, it's not a twin. And then I'll say, why don't we ask if you have a twin, hopefully, and I'll ask, is it a twin flame or a twin ray? Because you never know, because a person could actually be alone for like 3 or 4 years, get their act together, and be so highly evolved in just a 3-year short window of time, but going exponentially through growth, that they would actually be in union with a twin ray. And so I'll ask, and guess what? Sometimes, like I would say 7 to 8 out of 10 times, I'll say, there, boom, there it is. Yes, you've got a twin coming in. And it's coming. Like I did a reading 2 days ago for a young woman who is still a virgin, okay? And she's very innocent. She's incredibly psychic. She's a starseed, like personified Kuan Yin energy, very soft, very fragile in many ways. And there's a twin coming into her life next year. And so I couldn't believe it, because we were just doing a basic general reading. She was not asking about love, just so you know, at all, okay? And I was like, hang on, what the fuck? And I said, no, hang on, this is not a general. There's somebody coming here. And so I did another reading, and I did another, and sure enough, she's got a twin coming in. And then she drops the bomb saying, my mother told me there's a man coming for me next year. I go, well, your mom, she's correct. He's coming. And so you need to read, because she's innocent. She hasn't gone out there in the world, dated this, that, and the other. She has to bone up on the masculine, on what's tolerable, what's not, what's acceptable, what is not. Basically, she's got to read a whole bunch of books and study and go on YouTube and study, so that she can know what's permissible and what is absolutely a fucking deal breaker. And that is going to be the beginnings of her growth, is going to be her going out there and because, I mean, she would have been happy staying where she was probably for another 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. You know, some people are terrified of the world. Terrified. And you're going to learn more from a relationship than you would if you meditated 3 years in a ashram in India. Because relationships will always trigger the shit out of you. They'll also teach you, oh hell no. Even if it's a first date for 2 hours and something goes down, and thank God you have your mad money because you're smart and you drove yourself to the date because you're even smarter than that. You didn't do an Uber, or you didn't drive with this person. And you're like, yeah, that's a no. It's a no, no, and it's a no. And those kinds of things teach you about valuing your time, yourself, and your standards. And those are, and so when a person is shielding themselves from life, the universe will eventually drop a bomb. And the bomb always is a twin. It's always a twin that comes in. So you might be happily clueless in your marriage, which bores the shit out of you. You haven't had sex with your spouse in maybe a month, and sometimes up to 6 months. You essentially, some marriages are celibate, by the way. And here comes your twin. Why? Because it's time for you to fucking live your life and stop playing small. It's time to have wonderful experiences, massive growths, massive triggering, and to stop staying in a marriage that is not making you grow. Some marriages are good, actually. Some marriages are exactly what you need. And your job is to say, is this a good relationship? Can I heal this relationship? Can I grow it into something even more exciting? Some twins do that for marriages, by the way. But some twins will come in and destroy without even doing anything, without even asking you to leave. Like I have clients sometimes saying, well, if I leave my husband, it's usually the case, if I leave my husband, will my twin be into union? And my answer to them is, you better not leave your husband for your twin. You leave your husband for yourself. Because you're trying to bridge from one relationship to another. That's not going to work. It should never be about that. Can it be like that? Yes. But should it be like that? No. And if you do it for that reason, you will go into separation. I can guarantee the universe is going to say, yeah, the wrong answer, and pull the lever on you. You're going to go, what the fuck's going on? And it's not to run back to your husband once you made the decision. Because there are relationships of high-level soulmates together, and the twin walks in, and it's the twin that's fucked up that needs activation, which I've told this story way before, like 2 years ago. You can look at some of my old lives. And the marriage, though, is fantastic, and the twin doesn't have a shot in hell. Yeah, that happens too. Because there's a soul contract with a high-level soulmate that's stronger than the contract with the twin. The twin was supposed to be activated by you, not the other way around. And they're supposed to go back to their spouse and realize, this is a fucked up marriage. I'm addicted to all kinds of shit. I feel like a loser. I'm living my life like a loser. I got to get my shit together. And the best thing I told clients like that is send them books. I'm not kidding. Send them books. Send them on their way. And when it's time, believe me, the universe will open the portals again, meaning the doors, and you will be thrust back into each other's lives when it's time. But it's not time now. You see what I'm saying? So the divine couple, when the divine couple comes together, it is unlike high-level soulmates. I know this for a fact. I've lived both. I've been with a high-level soulmate for years in a marriage, and I've been with my twin. And my twin and I together could just literally not even articulate to each other, and we would manifest the most insane shit I still can't figure out. We lived in some of the most beautiful places with the most exquisite views for damn near no money. For example, right? It was very interesting. And we did this time and time again, without fail. And then when we would fuck up and have an argument, then the whole thing would collapse. And boom, we'd lose the place, not because of argument, but because of energy. It was time to move on to another place. And so for 5 years, for the first 5 years we lived together, and then we lived our last year together. So a total of 6 years out of 10. Out of 10 being in and out. And again, remember, I met him when I was 18, he was 33. So we had the activation started when I was 18 for both of us with the kiss. Not the sex, the kiss. And for some of you, the sex is immediate. For twin rays, what I found to be true is quite often they will not be people who just have sex on the spot with people. That's just not they're very private. They're very funny about their sexuality. But what twin rays meet, and some twin flames, they'll have sex the first hour, the first 24 hours they're having sex. And it will shake them up because they're like, I don't have one night stand. It's not my style. I don't do this. But they can't help it. The activation has to happen. For me and my twin, this is why I had to come to terms with it, because you regret. You go, oh, I wish I had gone with him when I was 18. But then I realized that it was exactly the soul contract. It was, I'm going to give you this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then we're not going to see each other for another 27 years. It turned out to be 30 actually. But that was important for both of us to go through a lot of life before we were able to come back together. See, that's what I'm saying. They're unions, not relationships at all. It's so different. And I've been fortunate to have these two different sides of these experiences, right? With high-level soulmates. And by the way, high-level soulmate means that he's also my twin's high-level soulmate. That's another thing that people don't understand. So if your twin is married to a high-level soulmate, it's also your twins. We're from the same soul group. You get that, right? And it was interesting because my husband at the time was never jealous of my twin. Never. That was never a problem. When my twin was connected with his high-level soulmate, I was never jealous. As a matter of fact, had my twin said, I want to go back to this woman. And I've talked to a lot of twins and we all agree, all of us. I want to go back to this woman. We all agree that as long as it's with a high-level soulmate, right? That is balanced, right? So, cool. It's somebody you would actually want to hang out with. You'd be fine with it. Would hurt. You'd go, oh God, I wish but you'd move on. You'd let it go. And we all agree with that. And that's the kind of unconditional love that soulmates don't have. It wouldn't matter if the woman was better for that person than you. The soulmate would fight tooth and nail, whereas a twin, watching their twin come into union with a high-level soulmate that's good for them, we're not fighting it. We're going to let it go. We're going to go, well, I guess that's the soul contract. A lot of us is transcendental about that, which again comes back to unconditional love. Does that make sense? So it's very fascinating how we can find ourselves. Yes, that makes sense. It's betrayal. Oh, hang on. Let me see when we're... Okay. No one explains it quite the way you do. So informative. Thank you. Yes, that makes sense. It's betrayal. Never leave your husband for your twin, only for yourself. The universe will tell you so much sense. Can you meet... Hang on for a quick second. For some reason... Can you meet your twin ray when in a twin flame relationship? No, because that's no, I don't believe so. And let me think about what you're saying, because I'm going to sit with that for a minute. The answer was immediately no. And I'll tell you why it's a no. You can have two twin flames, but not two twin rays. Why am I saying that? Because there's the completion happening in the twin ray connection. Do you understand? When we actually have concurrent incarnations where we split and we have maybe two twins, right? For example, twin flames, not twin rays. When we have two twin flames, one that's more of a shadow twin, more of a light twin, right? These are the same. It's like you. Do you understand this? Okay, listen. I'm a twin to my twin, and I am you. We have the same higher self. In fact, by the way, on a side note, just so you know, we also have the same guide. My guide is his guide. Okay? All right. So I'm having a concurrent incarnation. I split myself in half. He split himself in half, so that for years, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, we've been having incarnations in different bodies. We might have split ourselves into threes and having concurrent incarnations in different bodies. So that's why it's possible to have more than one twin. When you're a twin ray, your concurrent incarnations cease to be necessary. You start retrieving these souls back into you and becoming whole. And because you're becoming whole, a twin ray is the divine couple. It's the two. Not the three, not the four, not the five. With twin flames, yes. Yes, that happens. But with twin rays, no. It's the divine union of the two. With the higher self. And many of us, to be honest, okay, we don't want to really get to the high levels of 18th dimension, where we would become one in the body. Or, in fact, as you know, I told you of a twin who sometimes would incarnate with her masculine twin in the same body, having an experience through the lens of one gender. Does that make sense? But in terms of twin ray, this is when it's no longer necessary to keep splitting, if that makes sense, because you're coming into union with yourselves. This is why soul retrieval, we have fragments of pieces of our souls that we've left behind on battlefields, in torture chambers, in all kinds of situations, right? In fields, right? And so we will retrieve our soul through, like, I have a guided meditation that I actually have on YouTube, and also you'll see other guided meditations done by wonderful people who are like 20, 30-minute guided meditations. Mine's like less than 10 minutes. But the point is, so as you come into union with yourself, the divine couple of the masculine and feminine is enough unto itself. It doesn't need to be split into that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But can you have two twin flames? Absolutely. The split happened a long time ago. It happened millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. And the split happened for multiple reasons. I mean, one is that it's quicker to fucking experience shit. I mean, look, it's kind of like if I had a friend or two or three and I said, hey, we're going Easter egg hunting. You go this way, you go that way, I go this way, you go, and we're experiencing, gathering information, and then we all come back together to meet in under a tree. We all agree, well, okay, we'll meet at that tree, and we come together and we share the experience of retrieving the intel, the information, the soul experiences. And that's usually when you drop your body, or you meet each other in these bodies, you know? In other words, when I went out into the world at 18, and he continued his journey as a young man at 33, what he learned, and it was interesting too, because what he learned and what I learned was good, but some of it wasn't good. As a matter of fact, we both looked at each other when we first saw each other, and we both saw that we had been damaged by the world. It had damaged us. And so it was obvious that it was time for us to heal what had been damaged. What had been torn out of us had to be recalibrated. That was, important. And so when you get to the higher level of integrating and healing the many parts of you, including being very ruthlessly honest about your shadows, which I talked about earlier in a live today, which I posted already. Once you get to that point of being radically honest with yourself, even if you're ashamed, and you do the ho'oponopono to yourself a lot, then you don't need to be four of you out there anymore. That shit doesn't need to happen anymore. Being a walk-in doesn't need to happen anymore to the level of need. You know what I mean? And once you go, and this is something I know I don't know how, I just know it like in my blood, is once we go through the ascension, we're not falling again. And we're not falling again because we're not naive like we were before when we fell. When we fell, we were naive, which I talked about it in today's live. Now, we can't fall because we are what I call spiritually street smart. We can't go through the shit that we went through before in all of our incarnations on different planets being fucked over. Okay? Mostly by the reptilians. That's why they're such a necessary, we need to vanquish their influence over our race, our human race. And eventually our winning this spiritual war will reverberate across the galaxies and universes. And we will have polarity, don't get me wrong, but we will not ever have famine, genocide, or wars ever again. That's what we're fighting for. And you have people who are hoarders, like the billionaires that we have and trillionaires. They're going into levels of money that are like literally stupid, absolutely stupid. And they want this system They want this system because this system puts them at a high echelon of power and dominance and, all the nectar of all the physical things that the world has to offer when you're on that level of power. And once we eradicate the forms of power that are controlled by the reptilian forces that have been going on and creating all of these horrible realities that have harmed you, me, all of us throughout the ages, once that shit ends, game over. It's fucking game over. There's an equality that happens. There's the Galactic Council, for example, right? They call it the Galactic Federation. I call it the Council, but anyway, it's not a higher. There's no comment dit, how do you put it? Caste system. In the Galactic Council, there's no caste system. In other words, there's no king and queen and this and that and the other. There's none of that shit. It's just some of the best wise sentient beings that are part and have been asked to use their incredible wisdoms to guide their people. I'm going to use the word people for the lack of sentient beings. And what we have right now is not that, is it? So, and most of the distractions for the last, say, I'd say 3,000-4,000 years have been what? The ruling class making us suffer I mean, look at it. I mean, when you have to come up with a story like Robin Hood, I mean, fuck. He stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Why are they poor in the first place? If they're rich people, why are people poor when there's land? Why were people being hung because they were poaching rabbits from their land? Your land. That's not your rabbit. The rabbit could have come. Do you understand the level of oppression that we've normalized in our subconscious for many incarnations, and all of that needs to be eradicated. And that's why when the divine masculine, the divine feminine, which is represented by the magician in tarot and the high priestess, right? So what is that? The high priestess is the one who is psychic, who feels, who knows, who's connected to the creator, and she's connected to the moon and the planets and her blood moon and all of that, right? And she knows when it's the good timing. Whereas the magician is the one that brings it into the material world. Okay? So the divine couple, when they walk together in union, are the magician and the high priestess in power. In that kind of power. In wisdom. They're wisdom keepers, right? Whereas we don't have that right now. What we have, to be honest, is the king and queen. I won't even say they're emperor and empress. I won't even say that. It's the king and queen of something. And the king and queen of something is, depending on their personality, can be horrific. And mostly what we're being ruled by is the king and queen of swords. That kind of energy, that coldness. And it's very reptilian, the king and queen of swords, right? It's this cold energy. It's this mental energy. It's all about the mind. It's very reptilian. There's no heart aspect. There's no, kindness, generosity, fairness. When you have a bunch of people thinking it's okay to have $1 trillion or what the fuck are we talking about here? $200-300 billion. And it's okay to make people work like dogs, like at Amazon and places like that. That's okay. Then you know that we're being ruled by the reptilians. And so the divine feminine and masculine, and I've kind of, that have occurred throughout all of these different planets and different species, humanoid and so forth, because love is the bond that they carry. It is the very thing that created everything that we know and things we'll never know as long as we're in these bodies in 3D. And because it's love and creation and the creator created from desire and love. And the reptilians, though, were an offshoot of that, were a bastardization of that. It wasn't the all that said, oh yeah, let's create some assholes. Okay, that's not what happened. We were all given free will. And free will is a double-edged sword. And some people, some sentient beings decided that it was a good idea to just do what became the consciousness of the reptilian minds. And wanting to dominate above all else. And in one of my lives, I discussed one of my clients who was a reptilian who blasted, who they were committing geno on a planet, and how this particular reptilian didn't feel the thrill of the KILL, but felt the blasting sun energy vortex of the planet, because now we're finally realizing the Pachamama, Bhumi, Gaia is a soul, a feminine presence. Mother Nature, well, it's a soul, it's a spirit in this gigantic body. Anyway, he didn't feel just the thrill of the, doing that. What he felt was the cry of the planet he had just, him and his cohorts had destroyed. And he also heard the howl, or the energetic vortex of the voices of the sentient beings leaving their bodies in one shot, right? And that broke his heart open. His heart chakra opened up. At which point he was no longer, and I talked about this a while back, he was no longer a match to the frequency of the other reptilians. He could no longer live amongst them, be amongst them, walk amongst them. And that's when his falling was he rose, actually. He rose. And that showed me that not all reptilians are unable to wake up. But what's important is for us to handle the business of our own ascension. And I believe it like my next breath, that our ascension is going to be the catapult to every universes we don't even know exist. And it's going to shift it. And that's why we're so important. And it sounds like I'm kissing our own asses, but it's not that at all. You have to understand, we have been those sentient beings on other planets. We tried it. We tried it on those planets. We tried to war against them. We tried to fight fire with fire. We've also done it here with the 1%. It never worked. We have to do, this battle is to be won energetically. It cannot be won physically. It cannot be won from a 3D or reptilian mind. It has to be won from a high level of consciousness of love and co-creation, to the opposite of what we've been fighting. In other words, you turn your back on this bullshit and you go, and it's not going kumbaya, it's to become a fierce shaman, a fierce magician, a fierce high priest and priestess, to create something new. Or else, if you think you're going to be a Sarah Connor, trust me, I've been there for many minutes, and it's not going to work. We've done it before and it's failed. Oh, really? Same guy. This got even more illuminated. Makes sense. What causes the split? Okay. Complete or something complete. Can it be both? I wasn't looking when you asked the question, unfortunately. Sorry. Try to ask it again, Phoenix Fire. What can be both? What can be both? Because we're talking about... But Beth, does that answer your question? Sorry, because I went on a tangent again. Does that answer your question? I don't know if you're still there. You probably aren't. I'm just, Anyway, any other questions on that? So do you understand how important this is? So that's why twin flames, that are the Moldavite crystals of this conscious shift, are so dangerous to reptilian agenda, and aka also the 1%. That's why they've been bastardizing all of our divine couples. That's why they've been making movies to show us, you see, they always lose. That's why I always tell you to watch Rob Roy and Braveheart and even The Matrix. She dies. Don't they all die? They never win, do they? Is that interesting? It's almost like they're trying to program us to give up. Give up. We always win, no matter what. In The Matrix, right? What happens? He loses. She dies and he loses, right? They're twin rays, actually. They're twin rays. If you want to put into that context. They're both warriors, right? And he goes back into the machine, doesn't he? If you remember, I only saw it once, but, and I think when it came out. So, don't you find it interesting they always lose? And so, they're trying to do that with you as twins. They're trying to convince you that you're delulu, crazy, it doesn't exist, you're codependent, you're obsessed, you got problems, you're mental, you're making this shit up. And if I hadn't gone through this myself for that many years, I mean decades, I would probably feel the Lulu as well. But the thing is, because I've had such incredibly extraordinary experiences, spiritual experiences, seeing things with eyes wide open, just so you know, with eyes wide shut, also with third eye open. I've seen so much shit. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff I've seen. And still, people have seen more than me. And the difference between me and them is I believe it and they don't. They still don't believe what they've seen, whereas I do. It's the only difference is that I came in realizing that everything was possible, and then I would feel it when it was wrong or corrupted or something. Like I did, the only duet you'll ever see me, I did a duet on Bashar. Because I couldn't put, I was like, I know he's real, but he's not the, and finally I saw someone who agreed, because I was telling Andromeda, I said, I think he's reptilian. She goes, he's definitely reptilian. I was like, I know, right? Like, what in the fuck is up with these people believing in this bullshit? And guess what? Some woman described it perfect. She said, it's an energy which I knew. I mean, what happens here? Let me put it in my own words. What happens with psychics and other people on that realm? What happens is, so they'll tell you that they're connected to a Bashar or another type of person, and they're channeling someone, right? Someone or something or a group, or they'll tell you they got a download, and they don't realize that they're being played, because what happens is they'll get nectar. They'll get gold mine, wisdoms coming out of their mouths. And then they'll drop some very toxic shit. And the toxic shit is going to be sucked up like cake by people who don't have spiritual discernment, because they'll go, well, for example, like Bashar is always so, like, so, a lot of it is so good, it's so good. Yes, you're right, it is so good. But then there comes the bullshit that comes in to create fear. Now, I'm going to tell you someone who has never, ever said anything negative. Never. It's Lee Harris. He actually channels the 3 Z's. I've been following him. I can't even tell you how long it's been. At least 10 years. And when he was nobody, really, right? And I've even taken some of his classes. And never once has the 3 Z's said anything that was fear-filled or weird or reptilian or fell off. It's always pure downloads. It's always pure. Okay? And it's not because he's kumbaya, let's, like the Barbie and Ken stories in my head. No, he's saying some heavy shit. He's agreeing there's a spiritual war, but he's giving us the truth of how to wage it. And fighting fire with fire is not the way we win. We fight fire through transcendental, elevated, spiritual co-creation with the all. And fire eventually runs out of breath. And we won't. As long as we understand why we're here in this particular timeline. And every timeline we've been in, it's been difficult. Trust me, when you were a nun or a monk, when you were a warrior or a foot soldier or a farmer, it was always difficult. Sometimes you had pockets of incarnations that were just pure, simple, peaceful. I had a client, I did an Akashic, and it was a 17th century, beautiful man, actually a physically beautiful man and tall man, and his wife was beautiful. And they had like all these kids, like a whole bunch of kids. They were like, he was like a lord of some kind. He was kind to his people. And they had a very good life. And at around 60 some, he died. He was on a horse riding. He was happy. And he had a heart attack and literally fell off his horse. But he had a happy, happy life. It was just a good life. This was a woman, by the way. But as a man, she had this beautiful wife, and they made love. They were high-level soulmates. They had a great time in that incarnation. So every blue moon, we would have these wonderful incarnations where there was no French Revolution, no Huns going over the hill, no one conquering us. We're being left the fuck alone to just have a good life. We did have those. But for quite often, we did have challenging, scary, short lives. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. And so this also is, that. But what we're working for is something that will not disintegrate into chaos again. This is the big push. They did not have ascension going on in the 18th century, nor were they talking about ascension when they were, going across into Palestine to fight. Actually, it was called Jerusalem at the time, to fight for the crusade. You know what I'm saying? They were not. Okay, no one was talking, hey, we're going to ascend. No one was saying, when the Knights Templars were being hunted down like dogs and betrayed by the French king, none of them thought, yeah, this is the time when we're going to ascend. They all knew it wasn't time yet. They all knew it was coming. And we are the ones that were promised. So we're the ones that are here to do the work. And so the union that you have with your twin is serious business. It's not pillow talk and let's fuck around, let's watch a movie and all that bullshit. You need to take it seriously. Very seriously. Okay? It's a mission. It's a union. It's not kumbaya. Not yet. You know what I mean? Enjoy the nectar. Yes. Make love. Yes. But then raise your twin out of the ashes and the dumbing down of 3D, which has been controlling it for centuries. Yes. Like Esther Hicks. Hang on, let me see, because they're like, yes, approved comment. I could just not talk to anyone about that. Okay, and they would not get it. Andromeda, you're here. That's cool. Lovely Harris. I love Lee Harris. Like Esther Hicks, she feels completely different. I don't know. I haven't checked out Esther Hicks since 2016, but I can tell you I love Esther Hicks because she did a wonderful talk about why kids with autism were being born at the rate they were being born. It wasn't just what I believe it is, but it also had a spiritual agenda behind it, which I totally resonated with. I think it was in 2006, thereabouts, when she came out with that. And I can't speak of it, but I feel as if her intention is still good. I don't know. Maybe I should check her out. It's been a while. I haven't checked her out in years and years. But Lee Harris and his twin Ray, because I know that's his twin Ray. It's gotta be. Lover, okay, he's gay, obviously. You guys know that, I hope. And his lover is African American, and I've done their classes, and they're a very sweet, beautiful, loving couple, and they're on their mission, and they give a lot of free things, and they do a lot of things together, and I think I'm going to check him out to see what classes may come up for us. But he, during COVID, I was watching his tapping in energy all the time, Anyway, so any other questions or comments? I'm so glad you're here. Do you want to, are you getting ready for work? Got to go to bed. Thank you, Tony. Have a good night. Me too, actually. I have to go to bed. Do you have any last words, Andromeda? Do you want to go on or no? You can't because you're getting ready. Because I know it's really early for you. Any other questions? Okay, so I will upload this. Again, check out my recall. I have 15 minutes. Okay, so let's get her on. Here, let me invite you. Hang on. Reply. How the hell do I do this? Guest. Okay, here we go. I just sent it to you. Hey, my love, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Beth. I hope that answered the question. I hope it did. Go ahead, my love. Go for it. What did you want to share about the twin journey? We had someone saying it's dependence. I don't know how much you listen to, but anyway, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I switched on after I did my morning meditation. So they said what? They said it was basically, did they say like it was a codependent?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a big difference here, right? There can be codependency, right, in the twin connection. Absolutely. We're human beings. But you can't come into union with a twin until you release that codependency. The twin journey, the twin union, the twin relationship is all about excavation of your shadows, so that you get into that higher vibrational, higher dimensional space where you can both ascend and where you can spread that energy, that ascension to a wider community.
Yeah.
This is a completely different dynamic from the, some people call them karmic relationships, but let's face it, every single relationship is karmic, right? Every single person you encounter is karmic, right? So that's a bit of a silly term,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But for want of a better word, these karmic relationships are taught to teach you something. And many of us will have been in the position of having had very difficult relationships where we have had to really deep dive into our own experiences, our own wounds, our own psyche, and clear those human foibles before we even meet our twins, right? And then the twin comes and you go to a whole new level of pain and excavation, but you need to be prepared, right?
Yeah.
So it's a completely different dynamic, and I totally reject this notion that it's the same as an empath narcissist dynamic. There can be that, right? I'm not saying that there cannot be that, but the whole purpose of twins incarnating on Earth is entirely different. Yes, there is learning. Yes, there is growth. But ultimately, the aim is that you step into this world in higher dimensional energy, spread that to a wider community, help the Earth's ascension, help humanity's ascension through the energy, through the vibration of unconditional love. And trust me, right? You apart from your children, right?
Yeah.
You do not know unconditional love.
Yeah.
True unconditional love.
Yeah.
Until you have met, been with, separated from, had to forgive over and over and over again your twin, had to transcend 3D bullshit, understand what your soul is telling you.
100%. 100%. It's a heavy, and this is why we were talking about the flying monkeys, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about how you do not get people involved in your connection unless they want you both to be in union.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is that there's been a lot of propaganda, right?
Yes.
You've got two massive streaming platforms, right, that have these anti-twin flame documentaries without actually interviewing, Esther and Abraham Hicks, or interviewing you, Tony, right? People who actually know about this journey and are not going to make it all, flowers and butterflies and all of this. So they focus on a cult. So you tell a muggle, right?
Exactly.
That you're a twin, and they'll think you're nuts.
Yeah.
Right? They will not support your journey. It will challenge you in a way that you don't need to be challenged, because you're challenged enough on this journey.
Exactly.
The other thing that's really, really harmful are all of these people, right, who are coming out of the woodwork saying that they're twins, right, because they want to feel special. There is nothing special about being a twin.
Yep.
It is hard. It will take you to the brink. It will take you to the depths of your depths.
Yeah.
The twin dark night of the soul. I mean, I've been through several dark nights of the soul since I was a child.
Right.
But the dark night of the soul with my twin, well, that was something completely different. I couldn't move. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep for weeks.
I know.
I dropped I think I was telling you, I dropped 20 kilos in a couple of months because I couldn't understand where this pain was coming from.
Yeah.
Now that is a dark night of the soul, and that is a twin dark night of the soul. And the reason that you have to go through that
Yeah.
is so that you can come out the other side and understand and help other people and really understand what this connection is about.
And some people don't survive it. The
Yeah.
problem and the problem is that many of you are listening to content creators and who have never even been in union with their twin, even for 3-4 months, much less, and they will tell you to block your twin. And for me, that's a massive no-no. I mean, block him for the day, but fucking make sure if you have to, right? But don't block him for the whole. You'll forget, right? And make sure you have it on your alarm clock to unblock your twin if you need a break, like a 2-hour break. But don't. But to be honest with you, I'm totally against blocking. Have I done it? Yes. And I should have never done it. So I'm telling you what I've learned myself. Blocking your twin is not the way. The door should always be open to communication. Always, always, always. Unless you got a situation where your twin is a psychopath and oh my god, it can't be a twin. Yes, it fucking can. Yes, it can, because maybe in this incarnation you needed to be enough unto yourself. And your twin came up to pay some karma. There was a meeting and they were never going to come out of that type of cycle. Never. You know what I'm saying? Some situations with mental scarring, I'm going to call it scarring, is impossible to get out of. Do you understand? There are people that are just so gone. There's no way back. But the healing is the dropping of the body, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that there's if your twin is posing a danger to you,
yeah,
right? That's and that includes psychological danger, right?
yeah.
Then that's a completely different situation. But if you're just a bit pissed off with them, right?
Yeah.
Then don't do the whole blocking thing. Apart from which, right? That's a 3D thing. It's not going to get them out of your energy field.
Yeah, I know.
Because that energetic tie can never be severed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you are in a situation where your twin is displaying, psychopathic or sociopathic or harmful behaviors, then, by all means, block them. Really work on yourself. Really transmute that energy.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, blocking should be reserved for when they're really doing you harm. And even then, right?
Yeah.
Once you have healed, right, that aspect of yourself,
yeah, I agree with
being affected by their behavior, you unblock them. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to end up in a situation where your twin, right, had recognized their behavior, had recognized the harm that they had done, and you had closed the doors of communication. You
exactly.
don't want that situation.
I agree with that. 100%. And it's funny too, because I was just thinking of Othello, and most people, the one you want to see is the one with Kenneth Branagh, which is a good version. And the reason I bring it up is because even in Othello, he's got two stories that I can think of: Romeo and Juliet and Othello. Right? I'm not too keen on the Macbeth idea, but I'm thinking of Othello, and the reason is because Othello has his flying monkeys, and one of them is Iago, who plays and preys on his innate jealousy of Desdemona and sets it up to well, if you guys know Othello, you know what happens and what he does to her, and then realizes what he's done, and it's too late. With Romeo and Juliet, again, more flying monkeys. These are twin flames again, in my humble opinion, and they're getting everyone involved, and it's a series of fuckery where he thinks, right, Romeo thinks she's gone, right, and then finally when you get too many people involved, that's one thing that Shakespeare shows us in the matters of love. Keep people out of your fucking business unless they really love you and they will ride and die for you, for both of you. You know what I mean? Like there's situations where, like I had a friend, like I was talking about her, and I had to look at her and go, look, I would love it if this worked out for you, but you have to let go. You have throat cancer. You fucking almost died over this shit. She'd been waiting 12 years. I mentioned that earlier in this live, and she finally did let go. But fucking the cost, you know what I mean? And so she had to let go. But in some situations, if you guys are talking, right, you guys are talking every day, or you're talking, some masculines, they can only do it once a week. I don't know why, but some they just don't know how to water the garden. And but as long as when you communicate, it's good, it's honest, then honestly, technically, you're in union. You're just not physically in union. In other words, you're not actually living together. And to me, a big part of that is that part. But as long as you're communicating, then you can wake them up. But if you get pissed off to the point you're going to block them, that opportunity is now done, because they can't reach out to you.
Yeah.
Completely
agree. And it's unfortunately, right? Unfortunately, feminines, it's kind of our job, right? Yeah. It's not our job to do our twins' work for them.
I agree.
But it is our job to energetically help their awakening, right? And hold space for them while they're awakening. Because we've walked that path already, and we know that it's not pretty. We know that it can be really hard. We know that you question everything.
Yeah.
Right? So it's our job to hold that space for our masculine, again, as long as they're not displaying really, really harmful behavior, okay? And as long as you're not getting sick, right? Because if it's really harming you to that degree, then maybe you do need to take a step back. But blocking is not okay.
No.
It's a 3D modern bullshit tactic, right? When we had land rights, you couldn't block anybody.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I had a sacred masculine who was an amazing man, and he was doing horse therapy, spirituality, Reiki, this, that, and the other. And she was more the masculine. She was the runner. She was the masculine. She was ensconced in Orthodox religion. And I'm not joking when I say, I mean, quite into almost like a cultish situation, born again Christian type of thing, like weird. It was weird. I didn't get the whole sense of it, but I got a sense of it was very toxic. And she was married. And she came into union with him. And he kept saying to me, I can't do my mission unless I do it with her. And I kept saying, no, you don't understand. You have to learn how to do your mission without her. And she will come. So more or less, he started taking clients. And then he ended up, they started coming together. He was so ecstatic. And we did another session. And he says, like almost 2 weeks later, he said, I can't believe it. Maybe I should have never talked about it or done anything about it, because she's left me again, and I'm devastating, and I'm losing my business. And he was on the verge of homelessness. That's how bad it was destroying him, because he could not, because she was using him like a rubber band. It was like a yo-yo, actually. And I think that when you are going through that, you have to hold on tight. Like I went through that, right? And I had to go into my mission. And when I came into my mission on my own, alone, that's when my twin came back. That actually is when he was able to come back. And the universe still had forces to prevent him from coming in and move, us living together, until it was, some shit was cleared that I couldn't control, literally. I couldn't control him, neither could him. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And but I needed to be in full mission. And that's when it all fell. And the sad part is, the last time I heard this guy, I was calling on him to make sure he's okay. His phone was disconnected. So, and I mean, disconnect. It said disconnect. And so I was horrified, because here was a divine masculine who honestly had sold himself the fact that he could not be in mission unless he was in mission with her. That's a massive mistake. And it destroyed. And he had tower moments after tower moments, because he's not listening to your mission is your mission. That's why you have all these skill sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, this is part of the detachment, right? Mm-hmm. The detachment that we we have to learn, and it's really difficult, right? But we have to learn that detachment. Like when you're manifesting something, right? And you visualize and you ask the universe, right? For what it is you want, right? Say it's a loving, healthy, committed relationship with your twin, right?
Yeah.
And you're asking the universe for this, and you're doing the self-concept work, you're working on your own shadows, you're embracing your shadows, you're really in your feminine energy. In order for that manifestation to realize, you have to detach from the outcome. You have to say, I'm going to be okay, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Right? And that's your contract with the universe.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to deliver it while you're in an energy of desperation.
Yeah.
Right? And that applies more to twins than it does to any other situation. You have to be enough unto yourself.
Yeah.
You have to get to grips with your mission, understand your mission, start stepping into your mission, actively being on mission. And trust me, when you do that, right, when you do that, because you can only really, your twin's going to pop into your mind like a million times a day, all right? But when you do that, okay, your twin becomes less vital to your survival, to your sense of peace, to your sense of wholeness.
Yeah.
Okay. And brainwash yourself, right?
Yeah.
Brainwash yourself with spiritual education, with meditations, if necessary, with affirmations of I am powerful. I can manifest anything I wish to into reality. I can feel feminine energy flowing through me. I am magnetic, right? Keep brainwashing yourself. Listen to high vibrational beings like Esther Hicks and Lee Harris and Tony. Okay, listen to these beings, because they will tell you what you really need to know, and they will tell you that you are enough unto yourself. That all of this is an illusion. That your separation from your twin is an illusion. Because you're together on higher dimensions. This is another incarnation to which you are tied to for eternity.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you need their physical presence in order to step into mission, in order to be whole, in order to be yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to be authentic, is to walk, live, breathe, eat authenticity. Something doesn't feel right in your body. What is it? Why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do I feel like I'm compromising myself in order to do this, eat this, see this, speak this? Walk, live, breathe in authenticity. Your mission will come. And then if your twin is a vibrational match, I mean, I don't that kind of term, again, it is a bit simplistic.
Yeah.
Because your soul is a vibrational match, right? But if your twin is stuck in 3D egoic patterns, cycles, behaviors, then that's not an energy you want or need when you're trying to step into mission. Because you will have to compromise parts of yourself that you don't want to compromise. You will have to relax boundaries. You will have to almost lose yourself in order to please them. And what happens is that the twin actually gets further away the more you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, no, totally. Well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm glad you came on. That was a good surprise. Any last words?
Last words. Just look, you've got to do you, right? I know that's a cliche, but you've got to do you, because by excavating your shadows, by embracing your shadows, by loving yourself unconditionally, you will be in a position to ascend. And eventually,
Yeah.
in this incarnation or the next, or even when you're not incarnated together, your twin will ascend to meet you.
Yeah. 100% true. That if that doesn't give you anything, it should give you everything you need. All right, my love. It was such an honor. Thank you very much, Phoenix Fire. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for the Sacred Masculines on this live. I really appreciate you guys. I did see somebody who I see often, and love you all. And I will upload this without much edits at all because I just can't. It skips in the beginning. Just push it forward, and usually it works. Just be patient with the process. We're trying to figure out what to do next. Andromeda and I are going to be looking to create some classes, and we're excited, and we'll be announcing that soon. We're going to be working on some things that are already on demand, and we're feeling, right, Andromeda, we feel like it's a better thing to have on-demand classes so you can take them at your leisure. And then what we might do is incorporate some Zoom for a group, and hopefully you guys can join that as well to get the the direction, or to answer your questions or what have you. But yeah, we're looking on doing some wonderful classes, so we're excited, right?
Yeah, we're really excited, and these classes are all they're really all about your journey, your ascension, giving you the tools. There'll be guided meditations,
Yeah.
and also the opportunity to have coaching or healing or hypnotherapy, all of that. So watch this space. This will be launching soon.
Yeah. We're excited. All right, my love. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you jumped on. I appreciate it. We'll have to do a proper live with you from the beginning.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, I'll call you after. All right, namaste. Be well. All right, take care, guys. If you want to see this whole live, just go on my YouTube. Please follow us on YouTube. And there's all kinds of videos. There's a lot of lives you'll look up. It'll say Andromeda Flame, or you'll see Andromeda with the emoji flame. You can look up for all those lives. You can look them up, and you'll see her and I going together and sharing all kinds of wonderful experiences that we've had on this journey. And hopefully it can help you. All right, sending you much love all. Take care. Namaste. Be well.